So we're calling the 2018 budget hearings to order. We have a quorum. First speaker is Terry Porter, Director of Planning and Transportation.
Thank you and good evening. And thank you for being here this evening to listen to our budget proposal for 2018. I'd also like to introduce some of my staff who is here. Josh Desmond, our Deputy Director, and Andrew Seabor, our City Engineer, and Pat Martin, our Senior Transportation Planner. So why we exist, to help protect health, safety, and general welfare of the residents, visitors, and businesses within the city. It's our responsibility to prepare and update the comprehensive plan, to administer the local zoning and development regulation code, and planning, design, and implementation of local multimodal infrastructure projects. Update on our 2017 goals. We are working to finalize the comprehensive master plan that has been approved by the Plan Commission and is on your calendars for later this month. We hope to have that approved the fourth quarter of this year. We're also moving forward on the update to the Master Thoroughfare Plan. We're in negotiations with a consultant to begin that project this year, hopefully yet this month. And the plan will guide how our connectivity with pedestrian and greenways and street design. The update of the Unified Development Ordinances that will begin this year. We have been evaluating proposals from 10 consultants, responses that we've received to our RFI. We anticipate work to begin this fall. The 17th Street reconstruction is in design phase. 2 public meetings have been held, and a third will be held this year. Construction is anticipated 2019 or earlier, and there is a good deal of information on the website. There's a link to that, but I'll be happy to send that to you if that's helpful. Also, moving forward on affordable housing, working with HAND and ESD, collaborating with residential developers to offer diverse housing and green features and innovative designs in their projects. To date, and I think that this might be even higher, but there are 13 projects that have been heard by the Plan Commission, and there's more than 20 that are either in queue or not yet in queue that are considering or proposing development. The Title 15 ordinances, the recommendations by the Traffic Commission were passed earlier, a month or so ago. The bike ordinance was recently passed, and I believe you'll be looking at the residential street parking ordinance next week. And a preliminary analysis of a building department within the city. That was something that was on the 2017 radar screen. So we've begun a preliminary cost analysis, cost benefit, and we'll be carrying that forward into 2018. And here's our team, or at least part of our team, a good part of it, the best team ever. 2018 activities, we hope to complete the update of the Unified Development Ordinance in 2018. We'll be working with a consulting firm and establish the goals and policies, to codify the goals and policies that have been established in the comprehensive plan when that's finalized. Also work with you all and the Plan Commission. Hopefully we can have the UDO updated by the end of the third quarter in 2018. We are trying to put that on a parallel track with your review and approval of the comprehensive plan, and identify some high priority areas and work on those so that there's not a long period of time that elapses before we then get to the UDO ordinances, so we can do that in close proximity to your review and approval of the comp plan. The Master Thoroughfare Plan will begin this year and will continue into next year. That combines the bicycle pedestrian greenways plan into the updated transportation plan. And the goals will be to have this may be a little ambitious, to have the plan completed and approved by the second quarter of 2018. Actually, the time frame is about 12 months from the point of the contract being executed, and we've not entered into an agreement at this point, so that may be a little bit aggressive, but it will be 12 months or a year from when we begin. And the document will be guided by the comp plan. ArcGIS software is something that we're putting in place this year and will continue next year. It's a key data management and analysis tool, and will enable the staff to do the analysis on the many metrics that are specified in the comprehensive plan. So the goals there are to establish baseline data for many of the activities that we'll be undertaking, to be able to have monthly or quarterly reports, metrics that are available to you all and to the public on our progress, and to provide training to planning and transportation staff to fully utilize this essential tool. Again, we'll continue to work on affordable and workforce housing, collaborating with HAND and ESD and the council and administration to increase the volume of affordable housing that is available in the community. Work with multifamily housing developers with our specific goals of 90% of multifamily housing developers who file their projects through the planning and transportation department will be offered the opportunity to voluntarily include affordable or workforce housing units in their projects, contribute to the city's affordable housing fund, or propose a combination of these options. And again, that is voluntary. And we will collaborate with HAND and ESD on reports to measure that progress as well. So development services is one of our divisions within planning and transportation, and they review the petitions for UDO compliance. They also staff and make presentations to the Plan Commission, to you all and other boards and commissions. And they will also, a design firm may be consulted on high-profile developments to work with development services. And in these cases, the guidance will be presented to the Plan Commission and to you all as well. Goals for that division: a minimum of 35 cases will be heard by the Plan Commission in 2018. Present a minimum of 25 environmental review memos to the Plan Commission, and resolve 85% of U-Report complaints and code violations through zoning enforcement efforts in 2018. In our engineering and transportation services, which their mission is to oversee planning and design, construction and operation of infrastructure projects in the public right-of-way, and to make sure that there are applicable engineering principles and safety standards applied for their goals. And I don't have all the goals, just highlights here. 100% of the curb ramps that are updated will be ADA compliant, that the 17th Street reconstruction project design will be further developed, and right-of-way acquisition will begin by the end of the second quarter. Construction improvements on the intersection of Tap Road and Rockport Road, and continue collaboration with the City Council's Sidewalk Committee to implement the direction in the sidewalk project design right-of-way in your areas, in your purviews. Planning services, another division in planning and transportation, is charged with the administering and updating the comp plan. They staff the Metropolitan Planning Organization. They provide resources and support to the Bicycle Pedestrian Safety Commission, Traffic Commission, Parking Commission, and they lead sub-area plans, research, and studies as determined. Goals for the Planning Services Division is providing traffic counts. They're actually working with ITS to be able to provide this information to the public by the end of the second quarter 2018. This would be traffic counts and studies and other research. We're working on making that information public. They'll also have special events around increasing bike ridership. They will initiate and oversee at least 2 sub-area plans. And what I didn't put up here that I should have is in the spring that they will be submitting a new application for bicycle-friendly community status. Our status as a gold certified community, bicycle-friendly community is good for 4 years, and we received that status in 2014, so we'll be reapplying next year. And one of our goals also is to realign the Metropolitan Development Organization, or MPO. We want to adjust the organizational structure and add a position to separate the lines of reporting and to allow for our deputy director to serve full-time as the deputy director rather than splitting his time as the director of the MPO. So the goals will be to remove the potential or appearance of conflict of interest. That might be best illustrated if you have your org chart handy, which I don't have that up there on the screen. But if you look at the org chart, you can see off to the left the way we're proposing to separate the MPO. The way it is currently structured is that Mr. Seabor, who leads the engineering department, he goes to the MPO or works with the MPO. There we are. He works with the MPO to get funding for his projects, and there have been questions raised by the appearance of perhaps some undue influence on either end with the current scenario where he reports to Mr. Desmond, who is also the MPO director. So to resolve for that, and then also to allow Josh to do his position as deputy director, we're proposing an additional staff person, a transportation planner, to work in part in the planning department, reporting to our planning services manager, Scott Robinson. And with 2 full-time people working on the MPO, which has become more complex and with more reporting requirements as time has continued, we think that this will be an effective and efficient way to manage the MPO and to have our commitments to that organization covered. Oh, thanks, Jeff. Thank you. And then the possibility of the city building department doing a cost-benefit analysis. We're going to work with the departments that are involved. We have an interlocal agreement with the county that expires at the end of March. Most likely ask for an extension to the end of next year, so we have plenty of time to make a appropriate recommendation to those of you who will be making the decision on that, of whether it's something we should do or not. I will say just preliminarily that last year we had right around 260 permits, and this year there have been more than 400 permits issued. So the workload is increasing, and that's something that we're looking at, but we're at the very preliminary stages of evaluation. So the budget highlights, we're asking in our general fund for an increase of 6.2%. Category 1, this is an increase of 3.9%. This would include the new position for the Metropolitan Planning Organization, a transportation planner. Also includes increases in insurance costs and the 2% overall salary increase for non-union staff. In Category 2, we moved the engineering software cost to Category 3. So this category of supplies came down quite a bit. And Category 3, our overall increase is just under $100,000, or 34.4%. There's an increase in telephone, decrease in the other areas. The main increase is in line 399 for other services and charges, increase 106,800. And I'll kind of break this down for you a bit. This includes 75,000 for the continuation of the UDO updates. It does not include, it takes out 37,000, well, I should reword that. 37,000 was set aside in 2017 for the purchase of ENCODE, and we did not make that purchase. We instead are making the GIS license purchase, and then we will have maintenance costs in 2018. There was 25,000 in that budget as we're comparing the 2017 to 18. There was 25,000 set aside for a environmental and sustainability plan. However, we've kind of put that on the back burner because the Environmental Commission has produced an action plan in 2016, and that, along with all of the goals and information that's in Chapter 3 of the comp plan, we think is a good start at this time. So we think that we can move with more priority projects. Also, with the uncertainty of the current hospital site, the IU Health Redevelopment Plan did not go forward. There's no additional cost in 2018 for the consultant for the thoroughfare plan update that was put in the 2017 budget. And here are the increased costs for maintenance of the GIS licenses. And then $125,000 has been set aside for a design firm contract for a firm to work with our department and with you all to review projects and to make sure that they are outstanding projects to bring forward to the community. In the general fund, environmental, there's a small decrease. There's a decrease in our MPO funding. This is non-personnel costs. These are hard costs that were expended in 2017, and they did not need to be then purchased in 2018. Capital improvements, we move on to our alternative transportation fund, 454. That's 587,000, decrease of about 5.5%. Engineering and architectural, 75,000, that remains the same. In Category 4 of alternative transportation, we do have a decrease, but we have increased the Council Sidewalk Committee fund. This represents to 312,000. This represents a 4% increase from the 300,000 set aside in 2017. We listened to you, Councilman Volan. In our CUMCAP fund, Fund 601, 313,000, pretty significant decrease here. Line 311, we plan to do the North Beeline extension or the school zone safety enhancements. There's certainly the possibility that we would be able to do both if there's funding, other sources of funding that we'll be looking at, perhaps TIF or other funding. And Category 4, capital outlays, the request is $100,000, a large decrease from last year. Also, land purchase at $50,000 to fund transportation right-of-way, and another 54 improvements other than building, which will be used for traffic calming projects. So here is the breakdown of the budget summary for the general fund and the 6.2% increase. And Then the breakdown for the Fund 454, alternative transportation, the decrease of just under 4%. And then the 601 cum cap, this is the fund that we share with Public Works, but these are only our areas here, our line items, and a decrease of about 8.5%. And I thank you for your attention, and we continue to be committed to carrying out projects in Bloomington in an efficient and effective manner, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Council questions? Yes, Councilmember Sandberg.
Ms. Porter, as you know, you and I had a conversation about some of my concerns about the new bike ordinance and the changes that were made to that.
Yes.
Can you talk to me a little bit about your department's plan for really making sure there's a strong rollout for public education on this? I know some of the things that were suggested, I kept thinking, well, that's probably great for the bike riding community, but in terms of the walking community, what kind of strategies are we going to use here to make sure that is widely broadcast and everybody's aware of what they can and cannot do with respect to these changes?
Understood. Well, part of the reason that we have gold status as a bike-friendly community is because we focus on education not just to cyclists, but to pedestrians as well. And we're very focused on pedestrian safety. We'll be having our public outreach events. We have one that will be happening in October. We don't have a date set, but we'll be partnering with the police to hand out bike lights and maps. We've been putting our heads together on some partners that we can reach out to and have perhaps some things put on their website, either a information sheet or a link to the ordinance that highlights the responsibilities of both cyclists and pedestrians. We're going to be contacting Kona. We'll be working with the Bloomington Bicycle Club. We're in regular contact with Indiana University, so we can have some efforts there. So we don't have a fully fledged rollout for public education specific to the ordinance, but we will make some extra efforts and work with Mary Catherine in public affairs to get a press release out and work with you to see what better ideas that can come forward so that we can make sure that the spirit of the ordinance is maintained. Because again, it's not an ordinance that encourages people to ride on the sidewalk, but it just makes it so it's not illegal. And people can now ride legally on the B-line, which seems like that just seems very strange. That's something I didn't even know. But I do very much understand your concerns with pedestrian safety.
And as a follow-up, when specifically does this go into effect? I mean, do we have time to make sure that the entire public is aware of the changes before it actually is rolled out? Is it in effect now, or once the mayor signed it, is it?
You know, I don't have that information, but I will make sure to get that.
But you got the gist of my concern. IU students are back.
Understood.
We made a change to the ordinance. How is that being broadcast to the larger community outside of the biking community?
Right.
Thank you.
Right, you bet.
Councilmember Piedmont Smith.
Yes, I was surprised to hear you say that the sustainability plan is no longer one of your goals, and that you felt that the environmental plan put out by the Environmental Commission this year, combined with Chapter 3 of the comp plan, is sufficient. I'm surprised for two reasons. First of all, a sustainability plan was in the Economic and Sustainable Development Department's goals for 2018. And secondly, I thought that the sustainability plan was a necessary component to the comp plan. I thought that was a city goal. So could you elaborate, please?
I don't have any additional information about that. I can certainly do some research to see if that is if the plan specifically is an essential component of the comp plan. We do have an entire chapter devoted to environment in the comp plan. The sense was with this particular plan, since we had the action plan from the Environmental Commission, which has some very specific activities, and it's so recent, and then with the comp plan and everything that has gone into developing that particular chapter of the comp plan, we thought that there was a lot that maybe it wouldn't be a cost-effective way to have a consultant look at the same information that we could look at. Does that make sense?
So from that reply, I'm more confused. So is it still something your department will work on, but just not spend consultant money on externally? Or is it something you're just not going to work on?
We don't have in our plan, in our scope of work, if you will, to develop a formal environmental and sustainability plan because of the resources that we have available to us right now that are recent. So we don't have a plan for a formal plan, which was anticipated last year.
And have you discussed this with ESD? Because they seem to think they're going to be working on it.
We have discussed it with them, yes.
Okay, so I'm getting two different messages from two different departments about the same plan. You can see my confusion.
Understood. I'll certainly get some clarification on that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other first-round questions? I have a question. I think you said after the comprehensive plan is complete, you'll be subcontracting the UDO to be written kind of immediately after that's completed. Is that what you said?
Well, we actually want to contract with a consultant prior to the formal approval of the comp plan so that we can immediately start working on the priority areas, which so far have been identified as the downtown and the land use section. So the strategy there was to not have a long lapse of time between when the comp plan is approved and then when we have the ordinances to shore it up.
Do you think that represents some radical rezoning of going to form-based and writing a form-based code for the city, or how much is going to happen, and how fast do you anticipate that happening?
Well, it'll certainly go at a speed that allows thorough review and input and public dialogue. Again, the strategy is to try to kind of close the loop, if you will, with the number of projects that are coming into the downtown, that was set as a priority area to really look at our ordinances to see what changes needed to be made so we can ensure that the projects that do occur in downtown are the projects that we as a community want to have happen.
Okay, and was there another contractor or consultant that was going to be reviewing individual projects and bring them to us that are improved or something? I heard you say something like that.
Yes.
What is that?
We want to work with a design firm that will act on our behalf to review projects and come up with ideas that we don't necessarily have the skill set for, to make sure that they are good projects for the community. With this approach, we get the skill set of a team, so not just an architect, but also a lead accredited professional, landscape designers, experts in public space, public art, that can look at a project and say, well, you know, okay, how about if we transition into this neighborhood this way? And how about you consider these materials and make those kinds of recommendations that, that we as a department do not have the expertise for. So that's the intent. And that, you know, actually that we see that this team could work directly with the developer's architect or designer to improve the project, if it's a project that comes in and, you know, gee, this doesn't look like it's in context with the neighborhood. What changes can be made? So that's the goal and the purpose of that
Okay.
approach.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions? Councilmember Rallo?
Follow-up answer for you on the sustainability plan. Prior to this, it was kind of split up between ESD and planning and transportation. As we discussed internally, it made sense for ESD to lead that project, so that's why you saw that in their budget. Planning and transportation will participate with it, but it made sense to put it in ESD rather than have kind of split responsibilities and have one lead on the project. So the plan will be developed, ESD is going to lead the charge, and other departments, including planning and transportation, will participate.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rallo?
Yeah, clarification, an increase of $12,000, is that right, for the council sidewalk budget?
Yes, sir.
And then there's $50,000 set aside for traffic calming.
Yes.
Are those traffic calming your priorities, or are they, in other words, if we identify traffic calming during the council sidewalk process, could those funds be utilized?
Typically, the projects are developed or recommended by the administration or, you know, by the council. That's my understanding.
Okay, so in other words...
So you're
we would-
wondering if there would be an additional, or if the traffic calming would have to come out of the 312? Is that what you're asking?
No, actually, as I understand it, the $50,000 is separate from the 312, correct?
Yes.
I just wondered in terms of, the sidewalk committee is, and the council is developing kind of more of a comprehensive view in terms of crosswalks and traffic calming and so forth, and the administration supported that last year, and we had some, in the council sidewalk budget, committed funds for traffic calming. I'm thinking of Sarah Road, for instance. That was part of a crosswalks, essentially, accessibility to a sidewalk on the other side of Sarah Road. I'm wondering if recommendations from the council sidewalk committee could tap into that $50,000 Mr. Seabour has some input,
Oh.
maybe, of traffic calming
Mr.
funds
Seabour?
earmarked for traffic calming.
Sure. Andrew Seabour, Planning and Transportation. The $312,000 set aside for council sidewalk could still be, a portion of that has typically been divvied up for some traffic calming project. The $50,000 in the other funding line it's separate, so it wouldn't necessarily be, as currently proposed, something City Council Sidewalk Committee would have. Wouldn't be their pot of money. But that being said, I think as we've shown over the last couple of years, if there's funding gaps, or like on the Sarah Road project you mentioned, the Council Sidewalk Committee's committing a portion of the money to do that, and the administration thought there was some value in that, and we're supporting that with some of the funding that we have as well.
I see. That's okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Mm-hmm.
That's very helpful.
You have one?
I had a follow-up.
Yes, why don't you go ahead?
May I? I can't find it. I can't scroll fast enough. Okay, from memory, 13% of your budget was, there were funds that were generated from some source that represented about 13% of your budget that went to the general fund. I wondered where those monies came from. How were they appropriated, from fees or from?
Oh, you're speaking of the, in 2016, we had revenues of $492,000 and
That's it.
$463,000. We generate fees through permits and development filings, and there's a schedule of fees that we have, and that's how we generate income. And in fact, just checking our 2017 revenues to date, we're outpacing that. We have revenues of over $530,000 to date.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is that,
Those all go into the general fund to
Yes.
support the expenses.
yeah,
And if, that's a part of the 19.2% in miscellaneous revenues
okay.
that we get in the general fund, so.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I assume it's correlated with the number of petitions, is that correct?
Correct, yeah,
And the more
this-
petitions, the more
Yeah,
fees.
there's a fee schedule
Yeah.
for those types of things, just like parking permits and fines, and the various departments have some fees that are related to them.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Granger?
Thank you. Mine is a sidewalk follow-up, and perhaps Mr. Seaborg could help us with this. So we had $300,000 last year for sidewalk fund, and then I thought we had an additional $5,000 that we devoted strictly to traffic calming. So now we have 312,000 plus 5,000, or plus more than 5,000 for traffic calming? Or are you saying we have to take it out of 312?
As proposed, it's out of the 312. I think last year's, or this current year's budget was 306 or 305 total. Some of it was divvied up and split into the traffic calming, but as it's proposed for 2018, it would be 312
Okay.
total.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I thought it was in addition to
Oh,
that.
I'm
So,
sorry.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, it's 312,000 in 2017 and 2018.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Other questions? I'll ask just a quick one about the comprehensive plan. Could you comment on the prediction of over 6,000 demolitions from now through 2040? In the beginning of the plan, it says they're estimated to need 7,000 new residences, and they anticipate 6,000 plus demolitions, so that they need 13,000 residences by 2040. Can you comment on that? It was a surprising number to me.
I imagine that is related to the age of housing stock and the infill and replacement of aging housing stock. But yes, I agree, the numbers are surprising.
And the other surprising thing that jumped out at me was encouraging higher heights in the downtown core. That was something that seemed incongruous with what has been the discussion. And these are just highlights that I've
well-
been rereading it, and
Right. Well,
Those
it's
are the
like,
greatest
it's like
hits so
watching a
far.
movie you've seen 50 times. You can always pick out something different that you didn't notice one of the other times.
that's everything except the historic downtown. That's the whole surrounding downtown, and it's suggesting higher heights.
I would comment that I don't think that that's what we're aiming for. It depends on the context of the project and its fit with the area. Right now, the height limit in the courthouse district is 40 feet. Probably doesn't make sense
And
to
it's
go.
fully designated, so nothing's going to happen in that district. It's the core around the downtown.
Right,
that
right.
has
Actually, we're hoping that with working on the UDO and updating that, that we can direct development and maybe increase the heights in areas, for example, the PUD that's near Tappan and 69 that's in that area, that what the plan says now is 60 feet or 50 feet. So that's the limit. Well, does that really make sense to keep it that way? There's a lot of things that we really need to take a second look at. We look at the downtown and development there. There's a requirement for first floor commercial of 50%. Is that something that we want to revisit? So there's a lot of blending that we're going to need to do with the plan and with the UDO.
I know we'll have plenty of chance to talk about the comp plan. I just wanted to throw out the first ball.
Absolutely, I appreciate that.
Anybody else? Yes, Councilmember Rallo.
So you're beginning the master thoroughfare plan this month, is that correct?
But we hope to. We don't have a consultant under contract yet.
Okay, but in the near term, you're going to be
Yes.
working on the master thoroughfare plan, and then you're creating a master transportation plan that encompasses all forms of transportation. How do those differ? I mean, are they
They
one and the
sound
same?
alike, don't they? One
Yeah.
is the master thoroughfare plan that will combine the green space plan, the cyclist plan with our master thoroughfare update. That's required as part of the comp plan update, but it's going to be its own separate plan. And then the other plan, the MTP, I think, is that what we're talking about for the? No, we're not talking about that.
I think it's,
I think it's your plan.
yeah.
I'm getting my plans confused.
Sorry. So the city, we're under contract negotiations, working out the final scope for what we're calling a transportation plan. The transportation plan will include what is typically a thoroughfare plan and what is currently also our pedestrian bikeway, greenway system plan. So that it will really just be one plan. There's another plan being generated through the MPO called the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, but that's independent from the city and what's in your budget.
Okay. I guess my confusion lies with if we're pointing toward a particular specific plan for policy guidance. These aren't going to be working cross purposes, obviously. They're going to be complementary. But I'm a little confused as to why. I mean, it seems there's a redundancy there. Or am I missing something?
So I think what we're trying to do actually is to reduce the number of transportation plans. So we're really going to be combining what is currently two plans into one by what is our thoroughfare plan and what is our, I'll call it our greenways plan, and merging it into a new thing we're going to call our transportation plan.
And that's called the City Master Transportation Plan?
It's been probably listed as numerous names, but ultimately it's the transportation plan.
Okay.
Yes.
In any case, it encompasses and supports all modes of transportation. Correct? And provides direction for the city's future design investments in transportation infrastructure.
Correct. I just
Okay.
wanted to clarify that it won't look at, say, where the transit routes are. It'll be the road infrastructure, the sidewalk, the paths, the trails, and maybe where general guidelines for how to design roads to accommodate buses, but we won't get into the details of transit.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
Any other questions? I have one for you, Mr. Seabour. I heard a rumor about a greenway that is being planned and maybe underway, and I think it's over by Bryan Park. Do you have any information on that?
Greenway by Bryan Park.
Like, what's the main street that has the double streets?
Sheridan and South Downs.
Yeah, I think it involves those two streets.
We've been, Planning and Transportation's been working closely with the neighborhood over there. There's been some concerns about vehicle speeds and trying to make sure the facilities are comfortable and safe for pedestrians. So there's been a lot of discussions, and there's continuing to be discussions through the Traffic Commission and our department. There's no official plan in motion. There's some ideas that are out there in the discussions and working towards figuring out what, if anything, how we'll proceed.
Right, okay, thank you. Thanks, Andrew. Any other questions before we go to the public? Are there any public comments or questions? Back to the council. Final comments? No comments? Yes, Councilmember Piedmont Smith.
Yes, I'm glad to hear that the environment and sustainability plan is not, that plan will continue to be developed, although through the ESD department and not Planning and Transportation. I think it's very important to have such a plan. I think that our comprehensive plan that we'll be discussing at the council level soon should really make reference to a sustainability plan, and I understand it'll be a living document, so we can address that later. But the report and plan issued by the Environmental Commission is very good. I've read it, I've talked to them about it, but it's a report by a commission of the city of Bloomington. These are often ignored. They don't have the same power as a comprehensive plan that's kind of adopted by the council and discussed. We didn't adopt the EC's plan. I mean, I think it's great, but it's not the same weight, so I don't think it's a substitute. In addition, it's an environmental plan. Sustainability is more than environment. It's the 3 E's, the equity and the economic issues as well. So I think it's very important to continue working on a sustainability plan for the city, and I think we should eventually make reference to it from our comp plan to bind those together and give the sustainability plan the weight that it deserves. So I'm surprised that Planning and Transportation won't be part of that going forward, but I realize that they will be included, of course, in the conversation. So if moving it all into one department is more efficient, then I am in favor of that. So look forward to seeing that come out next year. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, Councilmember Rollo.
I'm supportive of this budget. Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate an increase in the council sidewalk fund. Staff has been very helpful to us in terms of facilitating our needs, and I appreciate that. I'll make the plea that I do now and then, and that is that as we are anticipating the comprehensive plan adoption and then the following Unified Development Ordinance, it might be prudent to put the brakes on development proposals until we complete them. I think we would be within our right to do so, and I would advise that we do it, and I would support it. But your department is an excellent department, and I support this budget, and there's a lot of exciting things ahead. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just say what happens in this department most directly affects the citizens of Bloomington in transportation and in their built environment, in their housing, and even in their affordability. And I really look forward to us working together on this. We as council represent citizenry all over the city, and they have direct interest in this. So I look forward to a cooperative, collaborative experience as we get this worked through and adopted. So I think I hope you have the same feelings about that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. And thank you for your presentation and your budget and your work.
Thank you very much.
Pass?
All right, let's start down on the right.
Pass.
Yes.
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 Pass?
Yes.
Yes.
502.
502. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Adam Wason of Public Works is on. Welcome.
Great, thank you. Give me, if I could just get one moment to get everything set
Sure,
up.
we got time.
Great, thank you. Hey, hang on. Okay, great. Are you going to do my slides?
We don't just represent neighborhoods, we represent the people who live in the city. And I don't want to do logs and drop downs, take it or leave it stuff. Decide, plan. Are you okay?
All right.
We have a quorum, you can go on.
Are we ready?
Take it away.
All right, great. Thank you. Adam Wason, Public Works Director. Pleasure and honor to be here tonight, once again to present our budgets for the Public Works Department. Overall, 2017 so far has been a big year of change. We've had 2 major retirements in Public Works, 2 of our two long-standing employees, and I think probably the longest-standing employee in the history of the city. So our Fleet Maintenance Director, Mike Young, retired earlier in June, and our Facilities Manager, Barry Collins, retired back in May. Combined, well over 57 years of service to the city. So I want to start by just thanking them for their service, and we've gone through and done a hiring process and brought on some great new employees. Jason Spears, our new Fleet Maintenance Manager, and J.D. Boruff is our Facilities Manager. The rest of the team that we have here tonight, we've got Ryan Daly. Ryan is our Parking Facilities Manager. Lisa Lozelle also works at the Fleet Maintenance Division. Chris Smith and Nate Nickel, they're in the Administrative Division. They help me on a daily basis with all the things that come through. And Joe Van Dievender, our Street Superintendent, and Virgil Souter, our Animal Care and Control Director. So jumping right in, you know, we're proud of the work we do. In a lot of ways, we provide several of the essential city services to the community, and we are proud of that work. Overall, our budgets total approximately $17 million of the city budget, so we take that very seriously, knowing that we're responsible for such a large portion of the city budget. With that $17 million, you know, that's roughly 120 plus full-time employees. That's you know, all of the divisions from animal care and control to the parking facilities, street facilities, and fleet maintenance as well. So, you know, we exist to direct the operations of the 5 divisions that provide these services. We try to do so. We try to respond to the residents of the city in a prompt, courteous, safe, efficient manner, and really take our job seriously and try to do best by the community. Some of our updates for the Administrative Department division of Public Works from 2017. One of our big goals last year was to go through and look at the American Public Works Association accreditation process and see if that's a good fit for us to move forward with. So we've completed an initial examination of all of those various policies and procedures that are required for the accreditation process, and done so in each of the divisions, outlined things that we're already doing, things that we may be able to improve on, and really taking the rest of 2017 and part of 2018 to decide, you know, does it make sense to move forward with a full accreditation, or does it make sense to look through and see what we need to improve on and maybe not spend the additional dollars for the accreditation. So we're continuing with that. Our staff spent over, you know, approximately 600 hours so far this year alone in just staffing and preparing the Board of Public Works meetings. The Board of Public Works meets every other week, and it's really a big part of what we do at the administrative level. We've really been trying to update and modernize how we collect and analyze data. So our overall condition rating updates throughout this year have made its way to the Be Clear portal on the city's website. So that's for road conditions, roadway conditions, and the indexes for sidewalks. And we've got some even better plans in place that we may be able to get through, take part in 2017 that I'll talk a little bit more about in the street department budget. We do public education and outreach events. We, so far in 2017, we've responded to 180 U reports at the, just at our, in the administrative division. So, you know, if there's a general concern about city operations and such, they tend to come to Public Works through the U report. So as far as the program activities that we do as in the administrative division, we develop and administer our departmental policies and procedures, and staff the Board of Public Works and oversee the 6 divisions of the various divisions of the Public Works Department. I've talked a little bit about that, the Public Works Association accreditation process, and how we'll continue reviewing that throughout the year. Again, Board of Public Works, so we facilitate all their meetings, we put together all the meeting packets, and this focuses in on things such as use of the public right-of-way for special events, use of public right-of-way for construction projects, approving all contracts and dollars spent by all the departments of the city outside of parks, police, and fire. So it's really the administrative body of the city of Bloomington in terms of all of those approvals that they do. We've been really trying to utilize the new city website to maximize our transparency and get the activities of the board out there in as many ways as we possibly can. Another big part of what we do at the administrative level is our asset management. So again, this ties back to the condition indexes that I referred to, but some of the things that we're really looking at right now, mostly through the Guaranteed Energy Savings Contract projects, include things like telematics and GPS systems for our city's fleet. Updating our GIS capabilities with our asset management program, it's called Lucidity, to a more Esri-based mapping system, which will really help us in how we collect and analyze some the data for our overall asset inventory. And then, you know, we'll be, at the administrative level, really working closely with our sanitation division and all the data that will come through the new modernization project. Constituent services is a big part of what we do. We get a lot of calls at Public Works and a lot of U-report cases, and you know, it's our responsibility to respond to those efficiently and in a timely fashion. You know, so just some of our budget highlights. We have a slight decrease in our overall public, our personnel services, just about a little under 1.5%, mainly due to a reduction in our SPIA fellowship program. We'll only have one SPIA fellow going forward. In our supply category 2 for the administrative division, just a small increase in our office supplies in our 2017 budget, and thanks to the council, we added one position to the department, our business and data manager, Nate Nichols' position. So just a slight uptick in overall office supplies with that new position. And then we do have a small increase in the amount of fuel for the vehicle that I use on a daily basis for city business. For category 3 and the other services and charges, overall about a 1.74% deduction. A lot of this is due to the decrease in our printing line. For many years, the municipal code update costs were included in Public Works, and that's really a function of the city clerk's office, so we've transferred those dollars over there. We've increased both our travel and our instruction lines as well. Priority of Mayor Hamilton has been, you know, staff education and training and workforce development for our staff as well. So with an additional staff member, we are seeking an increase in both of those lines as well to provide more opportunities for staff training. Motor repair, there is a pretty big increase in that. The vehicle that I do use is aging, but and previously, in last year's budget compared to, there will be additional charges for general maintenance with that vehicle. And then as far as our category 4 capital improvements, there's no change from the 2017 budget. The vast majority of that $337,000 is transferred out to the street department for their capital improvements that they do make. You know, as you can see here, overall, about a 1% decrease in the administrative line, with a total request of about $1.425 million for the administrative division. And there's a great picture of Chris, Nate, and Valerie and I, so be happy to answer any questions you have about the administration division budget. The fountain? Yeah, we work. The fountain. Oh, the fountain. Yes, so and I may ask JD to correct me if I'm wrong here, but you know, the fountain is a beloved feature at the farmers market throughout the summer, and I can remember when my kids played in their diapers in the fountain as well, and you know, so yes, we're working very closely. So there was a water line leak underneath the parking lot with the irrigation system that fed to the fountain, so we've been backfilling the fountain almost every Saturday with some other water because we had to shut off the line that had the leak. So we're doing our best to make sure that that fountain operates from 7, 8 a.m. on Saturdays at least through 1 p.m. and throughout the week, trying to do that as efficiently as possible. We are, in our 2017 budgets, working to make the repairs needed and such. But as Paula McDevitt, Parks Director, and I would both attest to, if that fountain's not on a Saturday morning, we hear from Mayor Hamilton, and there's always a question of why it's not on. So it's, yes, yeah, you know, they filled it 1 week, I do believe. So, yes, the beloved water fountain.
Well, Director Wace and I've heard repeatedly from a number of constituents about constituent service from your department, and it's all been glowing. It's all been just superb that they contact your department, and with practically the same day, the responsiveness has been there, and that's wonderful, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Right. Absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Wason, I applaud your pithiness tonight. You have a large department, you do a lot, and you were able to parse it down, and I just wanted to say thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'll second that. We've had some long nights, and we appreciate your ability to speak quickly.
I think we can be out of here by 7:10.
Oh, it is off. Thank you. All right.
Question?
Yes, let's do that. Let's start on the right.
Yes.
Yes.
Pass.
Yes.
Yes.
601.
601. Thank you.
Great. Next up, we have the Animal Care and Control Division for the Department of Public Works, and I'll just start off by saying the efforts and the work that the staff at the Animal Care and Control Division often might go unnoticed, but these are some of the most dedicated folks that work for the City of Bloomington. They work in trying conditions, whether it's the kennel workers working with animals with behavior issues, whether it's the animal care and control officers out there in the middle of the night responding to bats in apartments or animals that are aggressive. Really just appreciate all the work that happens at the animal shelter, and it's an exciting time at the animal shelter. You know, I'm sure you all know that, and if you've driven by the facility on South Walnut, the construction of the new portion of the building is going really well, and we're really excited about the opportunities that exist in the future from that major construction and capital investment that you folks have been so supportive of. So. Overall, the Animal Care and Control Division is responsible for addressing and responding to all companion animal needs through education, enforcement, and support in order to build a community in which people value animals and treat them with kindness and respect. It's as much of a mission statement as anything, and again, just really appreciative of the work that happens at the animal shelter. Some quick budget updates from 2017. You know, in an average year, the animal shelter sees somewhere between, in some years, as low as 3,200 animals. Recently, as many as 4,000 animals come through the door at the animal shelter. If for any of you that have been to that facility, it's not a very big facility, and it's just pretty amazing with the number of animals that they take into their care on any given day. So average length of stay, our goal's been to was 15 days for dogs and 30 days for cats. We're a little high on for the dogs at 18 and a half days and 25 days for cats. You know, one of the big things that we're going through right now as well, or we've transitioned this year, is a better software program. That it's a newer software program that allows for much more functionality in what the animal shelter tracks and how they do that, including some really great updates on animal health that they're able to really track and understand. Again, the renovation's underway. You know, we're always trying to focus on lowering our adoption return rate you know, the goal for 2017 is 3 to 4%. We're currently at 5%, and these are animals that get adopted, and for some reason or another, the adoption doesn't work out, and they're returned to the shelter. Some of the ways that we're trying to address this is we've been partnering with a local dog trainer on post-adoption services. We've begun a partnership with an IU grad student to study adoption applications and how people select the dogs at the shelter. And then as part of that process, they're going to look at different improvements that can be made to the application process. We're reaching our target euthanasia rate. We're well below it for the year, and you know, we're really proud of the fact that you know, we're currently at a 6% euthanasia rate, and the goal for the year was at 12%. So we're doing really great there. We're not quite at the live release rate of 80% yet. We're just shy of the 80% live release rate, and one of the main factors in why we haven't quite achieved the percentage goal that we set was we have a lot of young kittens right now, and you can't adopt those kittens until they get to a certain age. And if you were to walk into the shelter today, Virgil, how many kittens do you think you just have walking around? Walking around? A lot? Yeah. So, yeah, so those kittens are part of why we're not quite meeting that goal yet. So some additional goals that we're trying to reach this year and some highlights here. So our volunteer hours, we're at 5,500 volunteer hours at the animal shelter through the second quarter of 2017. That is just tremendous. I should have probably thought about putting a dollar amount to that 5,500 hours, but that's the commitment our volunteers have. That's just a tremendous commitment our volunteers have. So far, we've responded to 695 service requests through our animal control officers this year, and 44 of those were for serious allegations. We inspect and permit chicken flocks, and we participate in off-site adoption and education events. And you know, again, just you know, some of these off-site events include events at the library, the farmers market. We work closely with the Humane Association and many other local events to try to promote all the things we do at the animal shelter. Some of our activity descriptions and operations. We're both the base for our animal control services as well as the Monroe County Animal Control Services. So again, some of our goals going forward, we want to reduce the length of stay for dogs to 15 days and 25 days for cats. We want to increase the number of dogs entering in-house behavior program by 20%, and we want to get to that live release rate of 90%. Again, back to the volunteers. You know, we have 300 volunteers currently in our system. You know, the goal is to exceed 12,000 volunteer hours. Some of the things that have been really successful this year, we've really improved our electronic communications with the software programs that we've been able to utilize, and the volunteers get additional information whenever they do visit the shelter on other opportunities that we have. the Borrow a Dog program. I love this. It's a program that allows the community members to walk sheltered dogs. So if we have dogs that we have a good trust in, that they can leave the shelter, go for walks outside in the community. Helps not only the animal get adjusted to the outside world, but it also helps folks that want to become more involved in the community and with the animal care division. And then our foster home program is another great one. And this sounds wrong, but we're really rooting for foster failures. Folks that want to foster a dog, and then the failure is that they just end up keeping that dog for life. That happens more often than you would think. So, moving on to our animal control and our field operations. This is our 24/7 enforcement and animal control program. So at any point in time during the day, we have our animal control officers on call. They track everything from the number of allegations of cruelty, neglect, or abuse, all service calls for deer that have been hit and need removed from the roadway, other type of removal of animals. They inspect and permit the chicken flocks, and they really work in the community on a daily basis trying to help our animal owners. Public relations and our education programs, again, this is our off-site, our in-house, our counseling services that we partner with different behaviorists and such, and really their work is quite noble work, and sometimes can be heartbreaking work when you've really tried to work with an animal that doesn't work out, but really appreciate their efforts. Just to do some budget highlights, overall in Category 1 there is about a $24,000 increase, about 2%. This takes into account some temporary staffing that we need for our custodial services. They've moved from, we used to partner with Life Designs. We had a real successful relationship with Life Designs. Not able to continue that partnership at this time, so we really need to bring in that that temporary custodial assistance for the shelter. Supplies, about a 3% increase overall. Most of that is due to fleet and maintenance increases, and then replacing some aging equipment at the shelter. So, a traditional washing, drying machine from Lowe's is not what serves the shelter for long-term needs. So looking at replacing some of those types of pieces of equipment with more commercial grade that will last longer. Continuing in the supplies, a big one for us is about $6,000 in the other supplies line. This is going to be for IT improvements for the animal care and control, the vehicles that they have out on the street, to put a tablet with data and such so they can respond more efficiently on their calls. And then we're also asking for a 50% increase in the animal capture equipment for the animal control officers. And that's just really a health and safety issue for our staff members. Some other Category 3 increases highlights. We are, again, with the instruction line, asking for a large increase here. We found that by providing more training opportunities to our employees down there, we can do more of those behavioral type consulting and do more things in-house to hopefully improve our overall programs down there. And then just as far as just the overall budget highlight, about a 2.6% increase and a total budget request of about $1.508 million. And it wouldn't be an animal care and control presentation without some cute pictures of puppies and people. So I thought about sprinkling those into every one of the presentations tonight, but staff discouraged me from doing so. Happy to answer any questions about the Animal Care and Control Division.
Council questions? Councilmember Rallo.
Thank you for that presentation. I wondered, I was looking at this, one of the goals to track the number of allegations of cruelty, abuse, neglect, and it states in 2017, animal control officers responded to and closed 695 service requests, 44 of which were allegations of animal cruelty, neglect, or abuse. Could you unpack that a bit? Tell us, what are the service requests? Are those just, there's a loose animal running around and you're called for that purpose? And could you maybe elaborate in terms of the 44 allegations of animal cruelty. What's the trend looking like? Is it getting better, worse, the same? Thank you. Mr. Sauter.
Virgil Sauter, Director of Animal Care and Control. So service requests are the total number of requests that come to the shelter. So those would include everything from picking up a dead animal to a dog at large to the allegations of abuse and neglect. As far as the trend over the years, we are seeing a slight decrease. And again, these are allegations. We're really not seeing any kind of change with actual closed cases of abuse or neglect. We have maybe 1 or 2 of those a year.
Okay.
Councilmember, go ahead.
Well, I have a couple more, but I could wait.
Do it.
Go for it, huh? All right. Any problems with chickens?
We occasionally have some flocks to get loose, but the owners have been responsible in helping to corral them.
Okay. You haven't shut down any?
We have not had to shut down. The officer in charge of those works well with the flocks to remedy the problems as they occur.
Okay. Good. My last question is, are we still receiving animals from other counties? We instituted the fee, and are we still taking in animals from outside our
Yeah, we are still taking in other animals from outside of other areas. We're roughly around like a 15% from out of county. We do take in a fee of $20 for every adult animal that comes in out of county as a surrender fee to help offset our costs.
Okay. Okay, and is that trend, what's that look like?
Pretty stable.
Is it?
Last few years, we've had pretty much the exact same, so.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Piedmont Smith?
Yeah, one quick follow-up. So you charge a fee to whom? To the person who brings you the animal?
Yes, thank you. It's the person that brings the animal in.
Okay, so if somebody comes from Greene
whether it's a stray or an
County-
owner surrender, the person bringing from out of county, we do charge that fee.
And that was $20?
There's a few different fees depending on whether it's a litter. So a litter fee, we just charge $25 for the whole litter, but adult animals, $20 each.
Okay. That wasn't actually my question, that was a follow-up. So can I ask my other question?
course.
Which is, what is a live release rate?
That's a good question. So a live release rate is any time an animal leaves the shelter with a kind of a positive solution. So whether it's transferred to a rescue, adopted, or returned to the owner. So as opposed to either sitting in the shelter awaiting something to happen or euthanized.
Okay, so the euthanasia rate is 6%, but the live release rate is only 80%. So what is the other 14%?
So those are animals that are currently stay in our care, whether because they haven't been adopted yet, or this time of year largely it's kittens under 2 months of age, which we can't adopt out because they cannot be spayed and neutered yet. So they're in foster homes or at the shelter until that happens.
So the foster homes don't count as live release?
We do not currently house them as live release rate, no.
Okay.
It's kind of the end outcome of the animal.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further council questions, public? Seeing no public, back to council for comment? Yes.
I don't know about you, but if I were in charge of the Animal Care and Control Division, I would, or Public Works, I would put puppies and kittens in every presentation.
Staff discouraged me from doing
Councilmember
so.
Rowell?
It's very important work. I'm not sure I could do it. I would want to adopt every animal I saw. So I really appreciate what you and your staff do, and I'm happy that we were able to expand the facilities, and let's hope for a day when there's zero euthanasia.
Councilmember Sandberg?
Thank you. Again, pleased with all your great work. I'm glad that you're doing the job and not me. I hear you're having to pick up some snakes, so that would not be a job for me. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilmember Piedmont Smith?
Yeah, I just wanted to volunteer my time if you need anybody to play with the kittens.
I see no further council comments.
Call the questions?
Let's start with Councilmember Rallo.
Yes.
Yes.
How about the snakes? Pass.
Yes.
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 They're not cuddly. 601.
601 on that, thank you. And now, Adam Wason.
All right, so now moving on to the Fleet Maintenance Division. So, like I mentioned earlier, longtime employee, City of Bloomington, Mike Young retired this year. Wishing Mike all the best in his retirement. It was just shy of 47 years worth of service, so just tremendous length of service to the city, so thanks to Mike and all his dedication. Jason Spears has been brought on as our new fleet maintenance manager. Very thrilled with his hire. Jason comes to us from NDOT, where he was the sub-region operations manager for the Vincennes region, so he had quite a bit of responsibility there, and just in his, about 2 months now? About 2 months in, some of the change and some of the modernization we're seeing has been tremendous. Really thrilled to have Jason on. So, just jumping into our presentation here. Obviously, fleet maintenance, kind of self-explanatory, but we're responsible for the safe and efficient maintenance and repair, as well as the distribution of the maintenance and repair of city vehicles and equipment, as well as the distribution of fuel for the city's fleet. We ensure city departments have vehicles and equipment necessary to provide the essential city services to the citizens of Bloomington. Some of our goal updates for 2017, we're really putting a huge focus on preventative maintenance. That's the one thing that we can do to really ensure the longest life of all of our vehicles, and really putting a focused effort on that. So we, as far as our fuel purchases, we do that through a competitive bidding process with the Board of Public Works. Some other purchases we've been doing through the state's QPA, which secures good vendor pricing for us and with the state's purchasing agreements. And then with our new equipment and tools, so we've purchased in 2017 a new bulk oil tank for synthetic oils. So a lot of the newer vehicles are moving to a more synthetic oil than the traditional oils. We've upgraded our cold solution parts washer and also added a hot tank parts washer. If we need Jason to explain those, we will. But constantly working with the staff at the Fleet Maintenance Division to make sure they have the needed equipment and tools just to perform all the daily tasks that they have. So far in 2017, we've dispensed about 132,000 gallons of fuel, and on an annual basis, we're updating our vehicle points analysis and our vehicle profile. So preventative maintenance, currently our goal is to be as aggressive as possible with preventative maintenance and complete 125 preventative maintenance services monthly. I can tell you, since we brought Jason on, we've really kind of changed our outlook, not our outlook, but how we provide this maintenance, and it seems like staff at the master mechanics and other mechanics at the Fleet Division have really taken on to the new process and been really engaged in that. For routine maintenance, we process about 3,000 work orders annually. We do send some of our specialized and warranty repairs to outside vendors, and those are things like our fire apparatus, some of our large trucks, and then by doing so, and you'll see a bit of an increase in our outside repair line, it does allow our mechanics to really focus on some of the more traditional repairs, some of that more preventative type repairs. When we do have those big, lengthy repairs, we try to utilize our specific outside vendors with those specialties. For emergency maintenance, during normal operations, if we get a call from a city employee that's had an issue with their vehicle, whether it's fire department, police, street department, our target's to be on scene within 30 minutes. We do have, and then we do also have after-hours call-out service for vehicles that are in operation 24/7. And so that our target there is always an hour or less. And so with that, the call-outs include everything from snow events to if we have a fire truck breakdown in the evening or a police car, and our mechanics and our staff respond to that as quickly as possible. Our fuel service, again, we provide all the fueling sites, or the 2 fueling sites for all city vehicles, and a couple of things to note, fuel prices are unpredictable, we all know that. But we, through our competitive bidding, our QPA processes, and our bulk fuel purchases, we really try to, we're always striving to get the best cost, best price for the fuel. One thing that, we're looking at as part of the innovation process, as part of the guaranteed energy savings contract and project that we're working on right now, is this idea of vehicle telematics and GPS tracking. I've been working a lot with the innovation director on some opportunities here, and this isn't an effort to do anything other than to truly understand the usage patterns and the data that goes along with this type of telematics. Really will allow us to allocate resources amongst all the divisions and really understand the usage patterns to try to be as efficient with our fleet as possible. Some of the things that we're thinking about are possibly sharing vehicles amongst divisions. So if, one division's slower in the summertime and busier in the wintertime, and you have another division in the opposite, let's look at possible shared resources. So undertaking a lot of analysis of data on that. We obviously maintain parts and shop inventories. So both Napa and Fastenal, two of our biggest vendors, are part of the state QPA, so we have guaranteed pricing on their parts. A couple things that we're really moving forward with in 2018 as part of this request is purchasing what we call mobile column lifts, and this will allow staff, so if we do have a vehicle like a sanitation truck in for an extended repair, we'll have some mobile lifts that we can utilize outside the building or in other locations to provide repairs and maintenance. And that's especially useful, like I said, when we have big sanitation trucks or fire trucks in the garage. As far as our vehicle points and our purchases, so the vehicle points analysis, this is updated annually, and it gives us a snapshot of the current, what's the word I'm looking for here, condition of all the vehicles within the city's inventory. So it tells us the age of the vehicle, the mileage, the usage rates, all those sorts of things to really be able to track usage and understand the condition of the overall fleet of vehicles. Jumping into some budget highlights for personnel services, about a roughly 1% increase across the board. In category 2 for supplies, asking for about a $45,000 increase. This includes a $25,000 increase in garage and motor supplies. That's about 20%, $25,000, and that's just due to increase in tire costs, mainly for the cost of tires. Our motor vehicle repair, we are asking for a 50% increase on this, and this is due to the number of the increase in the number of outside repairs that we're taking to outside vendors. We do expect our fuel line to go down about 3%, and that's just based on trending fuel costs and what we're seeing in our analysis for that. In category 3 here, again, you're going to see a pretty significant increase. This is the motor repairs. This is for the parts and services that go with the outside repairs that we would be sending to outside vendors. And I'll probably ask Jason to help explain that a little better when we're in a question and answer portion, but with outside repairs, it's certainly something we've seen as a trend that with the age of the fleet and some of the major repairs that we need to do, just don't really have that ability in-house. For capital improvements, we're overall in a decrease here, and the main reason for that is in our 2017 budget request that you were so gracious to fund, we had $64,000 for a couple new pickup trucks at the fleet maintenance division, and so we won't need to purchase those again this year. And then there is a bit of an increase in the equipment line, and this is where those mobile column lifts and replacing the start all. And I had to ask what that was. The start all is the mobile piece of equipment for jump starting vehicles out in the field. So that's where those increases are coming from. Overall, for the fleet maintenance budget summary, about $2.639 million, and that's an overall increase of about 4.42%. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do we have questions? We don't. Oh, yes, we do. Councilmember Piedmont Smith.
Yeah, you said the number of outside repairs has increased. Why is that?
I think my initial analysis would just be that the overall age of the fleet has increased over the years. So for And when you look at our vehicle points analysis, and if you were to see the trend line, you know, we haven't always been great at replacing vehicles based on best management practices. We really try to get the longest life out of our vehicles, and happy to say, working with Controller Underwood and the administration, we've really made a focus on replacing outdated and aging equipment. But with that, when you have a fleet of roughly 400 plus vehicles, and then you add all of the equipment, that trend line, you know, if you're not replacing 10%, 12% annually, you're going to have higher amounts for those repairs, and they tend to be lengthier repairs for those older vehicles.
So I guess I still don't quite understand the correlation. I mean, I know the importance of, you know, replacing vehicles in a timely manner, but so once a vehicle gets past a certain age, there are things in it that our city mechanics can't fix,
It's not that
so
they-
they have to send it somewhere else?
It's not that they can't fix them. They certainly have the skill sets in most instances to make the repairs. It's that they take longer, or that they're just more major. So if it's an engine replacement per se, you know, that's probably a week or week-plus job for one of our guys. If we can send that out and not have a bay taken for a whole week, it's just for a more efficient operation for the overall division.
Okay, so it's not that the things require specialized skills, but it's
Not
just-
necessarily. In some cases with the fire apparatus, you know, we want to take that to someone that's, you know, and our mechanics have a lot of certifications and ability to work on our fire apparatus, but if it's a very specialized repair for a $1 million fire truck, I'd rather send it to somebody that's certified, warranted to do a repair like that than try to do that in-house.
Sure. Okay, thanks.
Any further questions? Public does not have any questions, comments from council? Yes, Councilmember Sandberg.
We certainly hear good things about our fleet and how good they are at doing repair work and keep things running as well as they possibly can. So kudos to all of you. Thank you for doing that hard work, and we appreciate it.
Seeing no further comments,
Could I make one additional comment?
please.
I did want to make one additional comment, and it's to thank an employee. You know, we often, you know, thank our employees on a regular basis, and for all that they do. The mechanics down there do a fabulous job. We've got the Lisas, as we call it, Lisa Bolin and Lisa Lizelle, but just a special shout out to Lisa Lizelle and all her efforts. Lisa's been with us for many, many years, and in the transition with Mike's retirement and everything else, and all the great work Lisa does. So I just want to say a special thanks to Lisa.
Very good. Are we ready?
Call the question.
Second.
Move to pass.
Move to pass.
Okay. Councilmember Rallo.
Yes.
Yes.
Pass.
Yes.
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 Something, 1,
601.
601. All right, we got more?
Yes, we do. Joe, you're up. I joked with him last year. I did all the presentations last year. And I said, you know, next year I think I'm going to have each of you do your own presentations, and then I got suckered into doing them all again this year. So, street division. So, again, this is one of our areas of essential city services. Responsible for maintaining our city roadways, traffic signals, traffic signs, sidewalks, ADA ramps. They're funded from roughly 5 funds, including general fund. 5, including general. 6. So lots of different funding streams, whether it's the Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, the Local Road and Street Fund, the Cumulative Capital Improvement Fund, the Cumulative Capital Development Fund. There's a lot of acronyms in there that that basically say we get a lot of different funding sources to maintain the city's road network and sidewalks and overall transportation network. So again, we're committed to providing public roadways and infrastructure that are safe and free of hazards. We have right around 234 lane miles or miles of city streets that we're responsible for. We try to, on an annual basis, pave about 3 to 5% of the city's inventory, and as part of our 2017 budget goals updates, So we're at about 7, we're probably over this by today, but we're probably closer to 9 or 10 lane miles of resurfaced roadways so far this year. Big shout out to the Controller's Office and the council, and a big thanks to the council. We were able to purchase a new paver this year with part of our reversion funding and everything. Our paver was getting to the point where it was beyond its useful life, and the number and the amount of repairs that we were doing to the previous paver just didn't make sense. So I can tell you our street department staff and our paving crews are very excited about the new paver. We've had some issues this year so far with our milling. We had a contract for a milling machine that we rented, and are working with the vendor on that right now. It was breaking down quite regularly while it was in our possession, and so we sent it back to them. Now we're contracting our milling work. It's probably going to impact our overall goal for paving this year, but still looking to have a very successful year on paving. So, here are some of our responsive, data points on responsiveness for potholes. So, so of the 474 potholes reported to us in 2017 so far, 59% of those were repaired within 48 hours, 41% within 49 hours and more. The only time we don't get to it within 48 hours is usually if it's over a weekend or if it's a more major repair than just filling a pothole. We've removed 123 dying or damaged trees. Really working on our contracted sidewalk program to address some of the 100 worst segments in the city. We've installed about 2,800 feet of curb and sidewalk so far, and are very active with our, our ADA compliant ramp installation. So anytime we repave or resurface a road, we're required to bring all intersection curb ramps into the current ADA compliance. That really eats up a large portion of the sidewalk money that we would do in-house. And just a big thanks to the council for their support with that contracted sidewalk program. We've had great success with that this year. 9 snow events last season, of which none were too terrible. I would love more years like last in terms of snow control. Our leafing collection went off pretty much without a hitch. Any year that we don't have to pick up frozen piles of leaves is a good year. We worked on a traffic signal retiming project with planning and transportation, LED bulb replacements in our city traffic signals, and this is actually LED bulb replacement from LED bulbs of the very earliest of technologies. So we've had LED bulbs for many years, but we're actively replacing those with some of the newest technologies. And then we replaced or repaired about 498 traffic signs, whether that was due to accidents or rowdy college students. Some other updates, we did 29 alley repairs. We did 234,000 roughly feet of long line pavement markings, and that includes 90,000 linear feet of bicycle lane markings. Provided over 5,000 line locates for our fiber optic and Bloomington Digital Underground, and we installed 12 new energy efficient LED roadway streetlights per citizen requests. So just getting into some of our activities and our program goals for 2018. Paving and patching, again, we want to do about 6% of the inventory each year, completing 10 to 15 lane miles of aggressive crack sealing. So crack sealing's where you're getting out with the sealants to just repair cracks. This really prolongs the life of a road, and something that we've begun to do so more aggressively. Again, we want to up our pothole repairs, so get that to 95% within 24 hours and 5% within 48 hours. And then we want to do about 60 to 70% of the roads, mill the roads that we're going to be paving. Again, maintaining the alley network. We try to respond to citizen concerns within a couple business days, and then resurface high traffic alleyways. So these citizen alley type concerns, these are mostly non-paved alleys. So if they're gravel alleys in the old networks that get rough and everything else, we'll go out and scrape those and flatten those out and do kind of minor maintenance in that way. Then again, we're always trying to do our leaf collection within the 6-week period after Halloween. Helping to manage the urban forest and collaboration with the city's urban forester. we're often just in a reactive mode here currently, and it's something that we're, over the next several years going to look to try to be more proactive on, but with the emerald ash borer and with different issues that the tree canopy has been dealing with, we're just really trying to get dangerous trees removed as quickly as possible when they're identified. Sidewalk maintenance. Again, this is using our overall condition index to determine the most important sidewalk repairs throughout the community. And we're, in any given year, going to hopefully, sorry, let me get to the right slide for you, install about 100 ADA compliant ramps each year. And we'll talk about this in the budget highlights, but the contracted sidewalk program, I again need to say thank you. The $50,000 you allocated to this year for private contracting of sidewalk repairs has allowed us to, in a very targeted way, go to do sidewalk repairs with outside vendors. And to sidewalks that are in the worst repair or in need of the repair most, or where we know we have citizens with mobility issues and that need repairs around their neighborhoods. So we've been very happy with that program, and you'll see an increase in that request for 2018. Again, snow removal. I'm not going to talk much about this because we're not going to have any snow in 2018, but in case we do, we are asking for some SALT money and so that we can be as responsive and efficient with our snow clearing efforts. Street sweeping, I'll tell you, we try to get almost every street in the network at least twice a year, downtown roughly 6 times or more a year. This is one of Mayor Hamilton's focus areas with me whenever he asks me, how are we telling people we're coming to their neighborhood to sweep their streets? And so we've been coordinating with, and thanks to Vicki Provine and some of our staff at the street department, coordinating with Vicki to try to get announcements out to the neighborhood associations if we're going to be in specific areas. For next year, and maybe even this fall, we're going to be looking at developing some street sweeping zones similar to our leafing zones so people will know when we're coming. The biggest thing is trying to get the cars off the street in advance of us coming with our street sweepers. So we're going to look at some zone programs and some better coordination and scheduling, and you may even see some temporary signage that goes out into neighborhoods saying, hey, we're coming to your neighborhood tomorrow to sweep your streets if you could remove your cars. Traffic signals and signs. Again, we're responsible for all traffic signals and signs. One of the I talked about the vehicle telematics as part of the fleet program. One of the things I'm most excited about right now with the street department and collaboration with Tom and the innovation as innovation director, with some of his innovation funds, we're looking to bring on an outside group called Transmapping. Transmapping was developed at Ohio State, but long story short, they use these super fancy Google-type cars to do condition indexing for all of your roadway surfaces, your sidewalks, your street signs. And so the wide range of data that it's able to capture and collect will feed directly into Lucity, our asset management system. So whereas right now we probably couldn't give you a completely accurate count on the number of street signs we have, or if they meet current retroreflectivity standards. But with this investment that we're looking to make here in 2017 in conjunction with the Innovation Office, it could really be a game changer in how we do asset management. So very excited about that, partnering with police and fire and some other divisions of departments of the city on all that can be done here. So very exciting program for us. What we're doing right now is kind of the cost-benefit analysis. How much time are we spending? It takes us about 3 years to do an inspection of all of our city road and sidewalk infrastructure. We're trying to do about 33% a year. They'll get this information to us in a couple weeks after they go through every city street. So it could be a huge advantage for us. Pavement markings, so again, we do pavement markings throughout the city, whether it's crosswalks or different parking type of markings and such, but we try to annually repaint all of our long lines, so the white road lines and such. And then as part of our markings in our signal division, sign and signal division, they also are the ones that do the line locates for the fiber optic network. For streetlights and traffic signals, again, everything we're going to try to do, everything we will do here will be with LED conversion, the latest technologies in LED. And a couple big projects with streetlights. We're going to be looking around the Showers building to replace the fixtures around here. Be looking at the Walnut Street, Gordon Pike, or, well, sorry, no. So replacing aging lights around the downtown square, around the Showers. You know, we pay the upfront costs for the capital for a streetlight and then enter into agreements with Duke Energy for the long-term maintenance. And that's all part of the LRS budget. That's part of the street department. You know, some of the other funds that are part of this go to, we're trying to get a better inventory of traffic signal boxes and such. If we have an accident that takes out a traffic signal box, those are about $35,000 a piece in most instances. By the time you get through the insurance process, it's 6 and 8 months later. So we've been, you know, trying to increase our inventory of those because of the length of time to get reimbursed through insurance and such. So just some budget highlights here. So for the Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, in Category 1, about a 1.29% increase in the personnel services line. For Category 2, we'll have about a $37,000 decrease in the fuel and oil. We do have a pretty significant decrease in our line 233 for street and alley sewer materials. Hopefully we get some better figures back from the state on that in the future. As we move forward. And then we have an increase of about, oh, sorry, let me flip the slides for you. Increase of about $2,000 for propane usage. That's got to do with our crack sealing and some other programs we're doing. We do, yeah, so moving on to Category 3, overall decrease of about 37, well, actually we're now into LRS budget highlights. So this is local road and street. Overall, Category 3, this is all Category 3 funding, about a $37,000 decrease here, and this is tied back to gasoline tax revenue. And moving on to the cumulative capital investment. Again, these are the decrease here, the $102,000 decrease is due to a decrease in projected revenues, so we're taking that into account. For CCD, looking at about a $265,000 increase. So where we lost out on maybe some MVH money for street and alley sewer materials, we're getting an additional $265,000 here. So it's offset pretty well and actually probably a little bit more overall. I would be remiss to tell you that it's really easy to track all these different funding sources, revenue projections, and everything else, but that's why I count on my good friend Controller Underwood and his staff to really help us understand where we're at in any given time to make sure we're in accordance with our budgets. So moving on, just overall budget summaries for local road and street, requesting about $608,000, which is a 5.77% decrease. For motor vehicle highway, MVH, Fund 451, about a $87,000 decrease, or 1.97%. And here's a, for the cum cap, again, just about $102,000 reduction. For cum cap development, $194,000 reduction, but then with the increase in CCD, we'll have be offsetting most of those reductions. So, and just a big thanks to all the crew, to the crews and the staff at the street department. You know, they're out there on days like today when it's 90 degrees behind a paver that's probably 130 degrees, and so you know they get the extremes like the sanitation division does. So they're out in the hottest weather and then they're out in the coldest weather, and all their efforts are just very much appreciated. So I'll be happy to answer any questions with the assistance of Joe Van Devender, our street superintendent.
Do we have questions? Yes, Councilmember Piedmont Smith.
Yeah, I think we only got 3 worksheets, and Mr. Wason talked about 4 funds, and at the beginning of his presentation, he and Mr. Underwood said there were 6 sources of revenue, so I'm a little confused as to how many funds and where I can see them all.
How many fingers am I holding up? The CCD fund that was shown in Planning and Transportation, it's a shared fund. So the full budget was in their section, and then there is capital money in the Public Works admin, about $300,000, I believe. And so it's a total of 5. I double counted a fund, so they get money out of 5 funds.
Okay, so I can find the worksheet for the CCD in Planning and Transportation and for, and part of what we saw under the Public Works admin was also for street.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the CCD fund gets shared by Planning and Transportation and the Street Department. Most of the capital expense, or most of the expenses in Planning and Transportation are design and maybe land acquisition, and most of the capital and supplies piece in CCD is for Street Department. So Planning and Transportation designs it, then they build it and pave it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Other questions? I just have, yes, go ahead.
I have other questions.
That's good, do it.
So you mentioned that in 2017, 59% of potholes were repaired within 48 hours. So how long did it take for the other 41% on average? Do you know?
Probably just over 40. I mean, so.
You said 49 or more, so I was like, that could be
So
anything.
I can tell you, we've begun tracking how we've changed the way we track pothole repairs because people are so much more interested in how long did it take you to fill our pothole. So so far in 2017, those were our figures, but where we kind of what we're doing now is, so whether it comes in over the phone or through the U report, we're putting a work order to it. We're going to understand exactly how long it took. That's why we're really increasing our goal as much as we have.
Okay, so you'll be increasing your tracking, and so you'll be able to tell if it wasn't within 48 hours, well,
Absolutely.
it was within
Yeah,
50
and
hours.
Yes.
So I'll ask you again next year.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're more actively tracking, and we're putting that information, I believe, through the Be Clear portal as well, so folks will be able to see that on a regular basis. But yeah, it's about tracking it. I think I would, and I think Joe would completely agree with me here. I'm guessing that our percentage within 24 hours is a little bit higher but we just didn't have the information to say absolutely we know that was within 24. So, but we're certainly tracking that more accurately now, and it's certainly an interest of the mayor and others too. So we're making sure we track that as effectively as possible.
Thank you.
My question is, could I have a list of the 100 worst sidewalks?
Yeah,
That's
not a problem.
Good, thanks. Are there any other questions? No public? Council comments?
Move to pass.
Second.
Councilmember Sandberg?
Yes.
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 Pass.
Yes.
Yes.
601.
601.
And Adam?
Still me. All right, sanitation. So as everyone in this room knows, and most of the public I'm sure knows, sanitation's been a big focus of our efforts in the last 2 years. So our sanitation modernization project is still ongoing with, we'll be delivering carts here in September with a go-live date of October 2nd if nothing goes wrong. We're really just pushing forward on all of this, and it's been a big focus of my efforts. It's been a big focus of the efforts at the sanitation division. Just want to say thanks to the staff and the employees down there. As I mentioned in my update to the council last week, this is one of the biggest changes we've done. This is probably the largest change we've done in quite some time in terms of an essential city service and how we offer it. So we've put a lot of thought, effort, time, gray hairs into the project, and it's looking like we're gonna still be on target for October here coming up. So again, so just kind of what we do here, we provide all the collection and disposal of household solid waste, large items, yard waste, and recycling services for residents located inside the city limits, and that's for residents that live in residential units of 4 or less. And then we also provide trash and recycling collection for City Hall, all the downtown containers, city parks, and all the various city facilities. So just as part of our 2017 goal updates, sanitation modernization, that is the focus. As part of that, we'll be moving to a weekly recycling service, which we've got a lot of people excited about, and looking to continue to exceed our national diversion rate, the national rate of diversion for recycled materials. 650 tons of coal mingled last year were collected, and 740 tons of fiber. Our Christmas tree collection, we did 2 loads and 50 cubic yards for last year. Some of our big goals, we've been maximizing the weight loads to our compost facility. We pay by the load, so we may as well maximize how much we can get in there. Our leafing efforts that start collection in the fall. In those 71 containers throughout the downtown, we collect the trash from those on a daily basis. Another thing we're proud of with our sanitation efforts is we partner with a lot of local special events and festivals, whether it's Lotus, the Strawberry Shortcake Festival, the 4th of July Parade, National Night Out, 4th Street Art Festival. We provide containers and sanitation services to those community events. So jumping right into kind of our program activities, solid waste collection. We do, we're hopeful, we're very much expecting that the sanitation, the compliance with our sanitation rules and regulations with the new program should be reduced pretty significantly. So this has got to do with, the weight limits and the size of the containers and such. And so we're excited about the new program in that regard. We're trying to stay on the forefront of some different food waste alternatives. So Shelby Walker, our Director of Sanitation, serves on the Indiana Food Waste Initiative Board, so trying to, more proactively think about composting and food waste collection. And then, obviously with the new program, we're going to be able to have a much larger set of data to understand the metrics and exactly how the new modernized system works, and we're very much excited about that. With recycling collection, again, we want to maintain about a 48% or higher recycling diversion rate. With the RFID system, we might be able to tailor some education programs. And then, again, with all the data we're collecting, we'll be able to better understand participation rates and look at the possibility of a true pay-as-you-throw system in the future. I did want to follow up from the report I gave to the council last week. I failed to, in all of our budget preparations, send over I told Councilmember Volin I'd send him the cart selection sizes for the recycling containers. And so the breakdown of customers selecting carts for recycling was 25% of residents chose the 35-gallon cart size, 64% of residents chose the 64-gallon cart size, and 11% chose the largest 96-gallon cart size for recycling. Yard waste collection. This is, our overall yard waste program, which includes the Christmas tree curbside collection, and we'll continue that program on an every other week basis with the new modernization program. The big change here is that folks will not have to buy yard waste stickers in the future. We'll be able to use the RFID and GPS technologies to bill for yard waste collection.
Could you repeat that?
So the big change to the yard waste collection is not, so we'll still continue picking up every other week. The big change is that, folks won't have to buy those yard waste collection stickers in the future. So we'll be able to use the RFID and the GPS technology on board the trucks to identify where we're picking up yard waste from.
Does that mean you'll bill the customer?
And then you'll bill back through the utility bill where sanitation charges will go. So.
As of October?
Yes.
I don't know that people have heard much about that.
We're trying to get all that information out there. But yeah, so I can tell you the one thing I hear from most folks that are excited about the new sanitation program is no more stickers. So whether it's just the traditional solid waste stickers or the yard waste. Downtown, again, like I said, we're at 71 containers on a regular basis, or on a daily basis, and then all the special festivals and such. And just going to some budget highlights. Overall for personnel services, about a 2.4% increase. We'll be, with the new program and the efficiencies over time, we'll be, obviously really tracking these things and capturing these data sets and these budget changes. For Category 2, about a $100 increase, which is 33% for office supplies. We've got some temporary part-time positions that'll help with customer service as we move towards modernization. About a $2,700 increase for facilities maintenance. And then we do have an increase on the other supplies, and this is just transferring purchasing of trash bags for parks to sanitation since we service all the city parks. A couple other Category 3 highlights. We have about a $15,000 decrease for printing because we no longer have to print trash stickers. Our communications contract does go up. We by $17,000 in a line that wasn't used in 2017, and this has got to do with the technology based on the RFID system and some data charges that we'll experience with the new technologies. And then we do have an increase in our fleet line for motor repairs, and this is repairs for the aging trucks. But then also we're expecting a bit of an increase in overall maintenance costs for the new trucks because of the hydraulic systems and how much more advanced they are than our current trucks in that regard. So as far as hardware and software maintenance, $10,000 increase, and this is for our for not only our RFID equipment but also our software service program that we'll be utilizing with the new program. And then we do have another $10,500 for upgrades at the sanitation garage. This is phone lines and data lines and such at the actual garage. So as far as the budget summary goes, about a $1.49 million overall request, and then obviously we'll have in terms of, well, actually that's the revenue. No, sorry. That is the overall budget summary for the general fund, and you'll have to jump in here, you know that, is the $1.49 million overall, looking at about a $2.584 million grand total for expenditures.
So there's two components to funding sanitation, and there has been for a number of years. That goes all the way back to the implementation of the sticker system. Prior to the implementation of the sticker system, sanitation was a general fund account, property taxes. As we implemented the sticker system, we were able to reduce that general fund contribution to sanitation by about 1/2. As Adam has shown in his presentation, historically, we've needed to transfer about $1 million from the general fund to the sanitation department to balance that budget. So we typically end the year in the sanitation fund, which the expenses come out of and the sticker revenue go into. We balance that with the contribution from the general fund. We wait till the end of the year to make that contribution. As we're transitioning to a new system, we have left in the general fund the same budgetary amount that we've had for a number of years, which is $1.4 million. That's what, to allow us some elasticity in, as we're going into a new system, we don't have experience with what it's really going to be. We anticipate that our model shows it staying at about $1 million. That'll leave us about $400,000 if there's ebbs and flows in that revenue stream to go ahead and fund the department. Otherwise, it'll revert back into the general fund.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rallo.
Thank you, Mr. Wason. I had a question about, I can't remember this has to do with the selection of the container size. It seemed like the distribution was maybe optimum, maybe actually quite good. Is that correct? Related to the anticipated fee structure that we reviewed. Is that correct?
Point of information, could you remind us of selection of the trash bins? What was the breakdown?
Yes, that's not my budget presentation, but yes, I can pull that up. If we want to move to a different question, I can come back to
Well, I
that
just
one.
thought
or-
it was related to that.
Okay, hang on one second. So specifically, so we were pretty satisfied. We about 8,000.
The fear was everybody would pick the smallest size, right?
Yes. Yeah, so.
But in this case, the medium size seemed to have the largest
Yes.
selection rate.
So we had about 8,000 responses come in from the community of the 15,000 or so households we serve. So about a bit over half. So about 6,000 or so residents didn't choose a size at all. And we did put, all the information was if you just want the 2 middle-sized carts, you don't have to do anything. And so, yeah, we were pretty satisfied with the response rate and the breakdown we got. Some of the models show, our fear was that what if 90% of the community chooses the smallest 35-gallon size? That's going to really change the financial model. And so, yeah, overall, we were pretty satisfied. It'll take us some time to really, there's a 60-day switch-out period after implementation that folks can switch cart sizes for free. I'll really be looking forward to that first full 2018 set of data to really understand the whole model and everything where we're at.
Gotcha. I had one other question. May I?
Yes, please.
Okay, it had to do with you mentioned the anticipated cost of repairs of the trucks due to complicated hydraulics, et cetera. Is this something we are equipped to do in-house, the repairs?
Yeah, so our staff's going to receive some additional training on the hydraulic systems. I know, that's one of Jason's focus areas with the fleet division and such. But yeah, we deal with hydraulic systems now, as well. So it's not outside of our expertise.
Great.
Other questions? Councilmember Piedmont Smith?
Yes, has there been any progress made in getting recycling collection in the parks? Has that been a discussion point this
Yeah,
year?
I believe we did some pilot areas, but I'll follow up with that. I know Shelby is working closely with the park staff and trying to get some pilot initiatives put together. So we'll follow up with a response over the next week or so.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to know about
Yeah.
that, thanks.
Yeah, the woman in the Bryan Park Neighborhood Association, she even got me fired up.
That
so.
was a moving public comment, yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Vola?
Yeah, just briefly, what were the numbers again? The numbers that Councilmember Rowland cited were for recycling choices. What were the numbers for trash choices? So you had 25% chose the 35-gallon recycling bin, 64% the 64-gallon bin, 11% the 96-gallon bin for recycling. What was for trash?
Hang on one second.
I didn't even know you could choose one and the other.
You can.
Wow.
I'm going
I
to have
chose
to
the
get you better
smallest of each.
information, Councilmember Sturbaum.
I mean, I thought you get two, just pick your size and you get two. You can get a big one and a small one.
You can get a big one and a small one.
This changes
You
everything.
can do a little trash and a whole lot of
You're not
recycling.
allowed to change, Councilmember Sturbaum. Shoot.
Did not know that.
So it was for solid waste, it was 58% with 64, 38% with, let me start over. It was 38% for 35 gallon, 58% for 68, or 64 gallon, and 4% for 96.
Only 4%?
Yeah.
Okay. The other question was, what was the year the sticker program started? Was it 94, 95?
Before I
know?
went to college.
I mean, it was Jim Sherman who did it, and that was the mid-90s.
I think it was 92 or 93 is what I recall from our discussions at the advisory committee. 93.
93?
So
Okay, so it'll have been basically 25 years of stickers. Gone.
Gone. Poof.
Right.
Other
Thanks very much.
questions? I have one question. What does it cost what'll you get billed for your yard waste?
The same fee, so I think yard waste stickers are currently $1 for a bundle, so you have to put one sticker at $1 per bundle, so that'll be maintained.
Okay. Are there further questions? No public? Any comments? Yes, Councilmember Vola.
Yeah, there's one thing that I think was neglected to be said by anybody in the whole discussion over sanitation, and Mr. Wason now gives me the opportunity to point it out. No one took into account when discussing the new system that without the new system, the council would absolutely have increased sticker prices. Like, there's no doubt in my mind we would have increased it. If we had wanted to pay for the entire sanitation system, the modernization task force calculated that we would have needed to go to $5 a sticker. Now, everyone here, I think, knows that that wouldn't have flown. We wouldn't have approved $5 a sticker. We should have doubled it at least, but we would have gone up at least to $3 a sticker. We would have increased it at least $1. At $3 a sticker, the cost of the new program, I mean, the cost of putting out a 35-gallon bin for, say, $3, the cost of the new program is the equivalent of somebody putting out a new bin, putting out a bin, a 35-gallon bin only, twice a month, not even every week. So, I mean, if it had gone even higher, the price of this system at $622, is that right? $622.
$622 for the smallest.
$622 for the small, for people who are really sensitive about price, the ones who are putting out the smallest amount of trash. You know, there's very little difference in price. It's going to be a little bit more significant for some people than others, but we're talking about a couple dollars a month. And, you know, if we had been honest with ourselves, they would have been paying $5 a month for that one bin of trash instead of two. So there was no way that people were going to avoid paying a little bit more for trash. And I want to make sure that's clear, because there's a lot of people who've approached me who are sensitive about this issue. It was one that I brought up to Mr. Wason many times. I pushed him on it, but no one really thought about that part of the equation. So I think it's a fair thing to say now during budgets that that sticker price would have gone up if we weren't going to stay at $2 a sticker. So I hope people keep that in mind when October rolls around and at long last the new system takes place and stickers are gone, I'm sure to the delight of the Public Works staff. Thank you.
Any other comments? Let's go.
Move to pass.
Second.
Let's start with Councilmember Rallo.
Yes.
Yes.
Pass.
Yes.
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 601.
Excellent. All right, moving on to facilities maintenance. So again, like I spoke about earlier, longtime employee retired from the Fleet Maintenance Division, Barry Collins. He took his good friend Peter with him to Arizona, who also worked in facilities maintenance, and I'm really excited to have J.D. Boroff on board as our new Director of Facilities Maintenance. J.D. came to us from the Parks Department as an operations supervisor over there, and so he's got a history with the city. Before that, I think he worked with our engineering staff. I know he worked with our engineering staff, and just pleased to have J.D. on board with our facilities division. So it's our mission here to sustain the quality and functionality of the City of Bloomington's buildings and structures. Some of our 2017 goal updates. We are in the process of going through purchasing for a new truck and plow, as well as a new utility van for our staff here. We'll be seeing some changes to the council chambers here with full conversion to the LED lighting, and that will take place by the end of the year. And then we did have some, we were planning to do, when we did our 2017 budget, we weren't certain where the animal shelter project was headed, so we did fund some HVAC upgrades in our 17 budget that we'll no longer need there, so we'll try to reallocate those resources as effectively as possible to other areas. And then on an annual, or so far, so staff receives about 600 maintenance requests for all the different facilities, whether it's the fire department, police department, sanitation garage, or city hall, and the other 15-plus buildings that we operate and maintain. Moving on to some of our activities here. So it's, again, the day-to-day operations for maintaining clean, safe, and attractive workplaces and sustaining operations while addressing emergencies as they come up. One of the things JD's done since he's come on board, we're looking at implementing a 5-year plan for fire station upgrades. We talk a lot about these overall condition indexes, the OCIs for various divisions of Public Works. We're going to set those to our facilities as well, just so we can truly understand the overall condition and work on things like capital replacement projects, deferred maintenance, things like that, to make sure we're addressing needs of our buildings. And it just really allows us to collect data and understand data on our buildings' operations. One of the big things that we do with the facilities division is we respond to all the work track and U reports for facilities and for graffiti at city properties. So work track's an internal software system where if I have an issue in my office with, say, my desk or any number of different things, we can jump on to a software program and request services from the facilities division. Our graffiti removal, so we're removing graffiti from City of Bloomington facilities. We're no longer doing so on private property, though. We did a pilot project over the last 4 or 5 years and worked with private property owners as well. We've seen that somewhat go down, but really want to make sure that the private property owners take ownership and remove graffiti on their property. We do any graffiti that's reported to us on a city property. We're going to try to get that down within 24 hours and at the very most 48 hours. For facility maintenance, just our budget highlights overall, increase of about $9,000 for our Category 1 personnel services. We'll have an increase in fuel with the vehicles that we'll be bringing on per the fleet division. For Category 3, we're looking at just about a 1% increase, and this is due to we're asking for an additional $10,000 in our contracted landscape services. Seems like every year we get new calls of places that just aren't private property, but we haven't necessarily maintained, and we want to make sure we're doing all we can to maintain all of the areas that we're responsible for. No change in our Category 4, our capital improvements. Some of the things we're looking to do in 2018 with our request and capital is to work with the police department on some projects they have at the training facility, and then also some updates at our sanitation garage that are much needed. So overall, request of about 1.1 million and some change, which is an overall increase of about 1.6%. And here's some staff in action. We've got John on the left working in the downtown, and Barry Wallach on the right there, and we're helping JD with all the projects they do. Special shout out to Barry Wallach. Barry's been with us for many, many years, and Barry's our downtown specialist. So he's in the downtown doing cleanup on a regular basis with the assistance of some of our part-time staff, and just Barry's kind of just a jack of all trades. If you need him to jump in and do something, he's more than willing to help out and has just tremendous skill set. So many thanks to Barry Wallach and all of his efforts. With that, I would be happy to answer any facilities division questions you may have.
Do we have questions? Seeing none? No public questions? Or do we have comments? Councilmember Volan.
If I were Adam Wason, I would decorate all my presentations with pictures of cute animals and Barry Wallach throughout.
Councilmember Granger.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was your comment?
That was my comment.
Nice and succinct.
Move to pass.
Let's start with Councilmember Sandberg.
Yes.
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 Pass.
Yes.
Yes.
601.
601.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
Councilmember Volan, did you pass?
I've been passing on everything throughout the week, just as a matter of principle. No one should infer any opinion from it. Thank you.
Is this our last one?
That's the last one.
I think I'm going to start from the beginning. We'll just start. Yes, this is the last Public Works presentation for the evening. It's our parking facilities division. So, as I know you're all well aware, we own as a city 3 parking garages at 7th and Walnut, 7th and Morton, and at 4th and Walnut. And overall, that provides 1,233 spaces of structured parking for residents and visitors of Bloomington. Get to the right page here, pardon me. Parking Facilities Division provides monthly and transient parking services to an average of 1,200 monthly parkers and 143,000 transient parkers. As far as our 2017 goal updates, we're at or near 100% occupancy at our garages almost all the time as far as with our permitted parking and our transient parking. For anyone that tries to utilize the 4th Street garage for hourly parking, you're probably not going to be able to do so unless it's after 5 or 6 p.m. We just have really high utilization rates. So, like I said, nearly 90,000 transient parkers have utilized the garage so far in 2017. We've collected $315,000 in monthly parking permit revenue and about $60,000 in transient parking revenue. And do know that with that $60,000 in transit parking revenue, that includes the 3-hour free program at the garages. So if you're just an hourly parker, you're getting those first 3 hours free. Some additional budget updates from 2017, undergoing some major spring cleaning projects throughout the year, which includes some painting and power washing projects. We're finishing up the installation of new electric charging stations at each of the garages. And then we're, as part of our 17 request, we talked a lot about beautification projects. So we're in the final process of getting some really neat beautification projects at both the Morton and Walnut Street garages. We're also making some pretty major repairs to the 4th Street garage skywalk to Fountain Square Mall, which we hope to get done yet this month, if not by the end of next month. So moving on to 18, our revenue goals aren't changing much. We're pretty consistent on what we're expecting for our revenues, unless we were to make changes to those fee structures. Again, we're always going to try to operate at least 85% occupancy during peak hours. And one of the things we're moving towards is just tracking customer compliments, hopefully more compliments than complaints of our facilities for customer service. Something that, we take the phone calls, but we want to really start tracking that and understanding those compliments or complaints. In terms of our expense side of things and our supplies, we're, looking to continue improving the beautification of garages with murals and artwork. And then, this will sound odd, but we want all of our garages and equipment to be open and operating 90% of the time. So you can think about the gates and such. If they get hit by a car or, there's a hardware failure or something like that, we always want to be up and running at least 97% of the time. As part of our 18 budget request, you're going to see a pretty significant request. It's time to replace the parking equipment, the gates, the ticket spitters. What else? I know, come on. And the membranes as well. But with all of that equipment, it's with some software changes we want to make, and with just the aging equipment we currently have, you will see a pretty significant request as we go through the actual budget highlights. So for personnel services, looking at about a 1.4% increase, or $5,540. As far as Category 2 supplies, overall decrease of about 1%. No truly major highlights here, other than to note that we do have a vehicle that we use with the garages, and it's a bit newer now, so we'll have some reductions in fleet charges. There is one pretty significant increase, and this is about $16,000 in other repairs and maintenance, and this is just kind of ongoing maintenance and replacement and repairs to signage and other aspects of the garages. Getting into some more significant increases that we're requesting, like I mentioned, this is about a 16% increase in Category 3. Most notably, about a $205,000 increase in other repairs, and this is just for general garage upkeep, repair. You need to invest in these garages to make sure you get their full useful life out of them. One thing we're excited about is working with the Parking Commission and others to really study our facilities, understand them better, and look to the future needs of the community in terms of parking structures. Some other, just Category 3, looking at some temporary contractual employment increases, and this is just snow removal, private contracted snow removal at our garages. We don't expect to be, as much as I don't like it, we expect a little more snow next year than we had this year. And then here's what I was talking about as far as the parking equipment upgrades. This is a huge increase, where it's it's 525% increase compared to last year's request. But this is $420,000, and this will replace all parking equipment, including pay station, exit gate lanes, and entry spitters. That was the one I was missing earlier. And so this will be at all of the garages. We'll move to the same equipment in each and every garage, which will make everything identical in how they operate and such. And then, again, we look forward to working with both the Parking Commission, the council, and the administration on, our overall plan for our parking structures moving forward. As far as the budget summary, a pretty significant increase here that we are requesting. Like I said, it's mostly due to the parking equipment, but $639,000 increase for a total budget request of $2.559 million. Any specific questions, I'm more than happy to have Ryan Daly, our parking services manager, come on up and answer those.
So is this in the general fund, or is this from parking revenues?
Controller Underwood will answer this one.
Parking facilities is its own fund, and it is supported by its own revenues. The only item that it does not support currently is the capital payments for the garages, and that's by TIF funds.
So how much of this $420,000 capital investment is going to come from TIF, and how much from the parking fund?
All of it will come from the parking fund. The
okay.
TIF just pays the principal and interest on the lease payments for the garages.
Other questions, Councilmember Rallo?
Yeah, any way to anticipate or any guess as to the longevity of these improvements? How long before we'll need to
Yeah, actually,
do it again?
Ryan and I have been having many lengthy conversations about that. Part of our 2017 funding that we've got in place right now is to do, 4th Street in particular is the key one to do that analysis on right now. So we're making a pretty significant investment in that study to really understand that structure from a structural lifespan. We've always estimated that, we need to put about $150,000 into that facility every year just to maintain its useful lifespan. But what we're contracting for right now is with a structural engineer, do the full study, understand exactly what it's going to take over, whether it's 5 years of investments, and then you need to do that cost benefit of, if you make 5 years of investments at X amount, how many extra years of lifespan does it get you? The 4th Street garage is currently built in 1986, 31 years old. So typical lifespans for parking garages, 30 to 50 years, depending on how much you're investing on an annual basis in that maintenance and upkeep.
Okay, so the study is ongoing right now.
What's that?
You'll have more information.
Yes,
regarding
the structural engineer study will provide us the information on what investments need to be made and help us with that cost-benefit analysis.
Okay.
Councilmember Volan?
Would you mind explaining, maybe you or Mr. Daly could explain the difference between the 3 garages, that the 2 newer ones are poured in place, whereas 4th Street is precast. Could you explain?
Mr. Daly, will you please come to the microphone?
Then that's part of the reason why the 4th Street garage is falling apart at a faster rate. Do I have that right? Could you explain them?
Neglect also and maintenance of the garage.
So we neglected the 4th Street garage?
4th Street
to some
garage.
extent.
Yeah, the poured-in-place garage is the Morton Street garage and the Walnut Street garage. Those are built a lot differently than a cast garage where it's like Lego blocks. You just drop it into
So you need to speak up because
it's just like a Lego block. You would drop it into a spot, and that's what the 4th Street garage is comprised of. So there's going to be a lot of seams between parking decks, which cause wear and tear of the garage, icing, freezing, rain. Then you're going to see cracking throughout the facility. And then the difference between a poured in place is you don't have that seams throughout the facility. You go to Walnut or Morton Street, you won't find those seams throughout the decks.
And could you explain the nature of the neglect at the 4th Street garage?
A lot of it was due, it was concrete not being repaired, breaking of joints, rusting of pipes, things of that nature.
Over what period of time?
For as long as they've been,
You mean like day one?
I don't know about day one, but we've instituted the maintenance program 2 years ago when I started with the city to start investing into the property, repairs and maintenance to the facility.
So there was no regular maintenance program
No, as
before
far as I
2
know,
years
no.
ago? Holy cats. All right, thank you.
And I just have a question about security. I haven't heard complaints about the parking garages, and I wondered if that's reflected in that we're having a better security situation in the garages.
All of our garages are maintained 24/7 on site with staff member, also cameras throughout the facilities.
Right. It's having a good effect. Thank you. Any other questions? Let's move this question.
Oh, part of the security too, yeah, Councilmember Sturba, we've made some pretty significant lighting upgrades too throughout the facilities with LEDs and such. So it's not only energy efficiency, but it's also the actual safety lighting as
Right.
well.
Very good.
Just one other reminder for the council. 2 years ago, we switched from having the Rogers contract run. So, and 2 years ago, we brought those contracts back in, and they're staffed by our employees. So,
Well done. I don't think there are any other comments.
Did we do questions from the public?
Do we have a question from the public?
Comments from the public.
Comments from the public? No. We're back to council. And we're going to deal with this one, and then we're all going to get to comment on the budget as a whole.
Move to pass.
Second. Comment.
You want to comment on what?
The garages.
Oh, we have a last-minute comment on the garages.
Just wanted to say thanks for the attention to the garages. It's overdue. I am interested in the ultimate fate of the 4th Street garage. It does sound like it is not long for this world, shall we say, compared to the other 2 garages, at least compared to them. But I think it's important that we all understand sort of the details of this capital investment, because at some point we need to be thinking about whether, like that garage is going to get replaced sooner rather than later, and we need to figure out how we're going to do it. Thank you.
So let's start with Councilmember Rallo on the do-pass motion.
Yes.
Yes.
Pass.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
That's 601.
601. Thank you all very much. The nuts and bolts of the city, right?
I would say
Thank you.
so. Thank you all
Yes.
very much.
We're ready for final comment. Do you want any last questions of,
I have one last question.
yes?
Can I ask Mr. Renison, what is the total net increase in personnel lines with this budget? How many new people will be hired by the city to the nearest few people?
Maybe that's a Controller Underwood question.
Maybe that's
too.
his question too. I don't know who can answer it.
14 and a half. 9 in the police department, 1 in the mayor's office, 1 in information technology, an increase in the parks department from quarter-time to full-time. Planning and transportation was a full-time ad. What's that add up to? Does that add?
I got 9, 10, 11 and 3/4, 12 and 3/4 so far.
3 in the police, 9. What am I missing?
Is Public Works adding somebody?
Oh, half-time position in the council's office. And,
Clerk? There's no change
no,
in the clerk?
that was, there were 2 grade changes in the clerk's office, 1 grade change in hand, 1 grade change in the mayor's office.
I've got 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 and a quarter. So we're missing one.
It's 5 1/4, yeah, so Parks, Mayor.
And if it's not readily available, I'm sure
Yeah.
they can get back to Councilmember Vola.
We can do our
Okay.
wrap-ups while you ask that unless somebody else has a question. Thanks.
Okay. It's now time to have final comments on the budget as a whole. Anyone who'd like to make that kind of comment is welcome to do so. I see no comments on this side. Yes, Councilmember Rallo.
I'll be brief. I thought these were excellent and thorough presentations by directors of departments. I think we have many important investments for the city. I'm very supportive of the mayor's request for, don't remember the exact terminology, but the public liaison from the mayor's office. I'll have more comments in the September or October, but I think this is a very sound budget and protects healthy reserves. So I'm very satisfied with it. I had one department that I passed on was the police department budget, and my main concern, I think, was brought up by a couple of council members and the public about the number of officers. I'm satisfied with the number of officers, the new dispatch personnel. I think my main question regarding that budget is investment in more officers to keep pace per capita with increase in population of the community. So I'm satisfied. This is a good budget. It's been a good process, and thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Councilmember Piedmont Smith.
Yes, I really appreciate all the hard work that's gone into this budget. I know it's a very unwieldy thing and a difficult process and kind of a self-analysis that every department has to make. I just wanted to point out a few things that I'll be working on with the administration between now and the final budget vote. I do want to bring all city employees, whether they're seasonal, part-time, temporary, full-time, up to a living wage. I would like to see a commitment from the police department that one of the new officers be assigned as a downtown resource officer, because I think that's a very valuable program. And especially with the Shalom Center's expanding hours, I think we need more resource officers. I would like to see some sort of council oversight of investments made from the Housing Development Fund, whether that's informal or formal. I'd like to discuss that further. And I'm not sure about the new staff position in the mayor's office. First of all, I think it's kind of doubling the mayor's office in 2 years. So I'm a little hesitant there just because of the rapid increase in numbers for a relatively small department. I'm also, of course, looking for somewhere to cut to bring people up to the living wage, because I realize we can't actually increase the budget. So I'd like to have further discussions with the mayor and deputy mayor about fulfilling that need in their department with their current staff. So there'll be some serious conversations between now and when we have the final vote, and I look forward to working collaboratively with the administration on passing a solid budget that uses our limited resources for the greatest good. Thank you.
Councilmember Volna.
Thank you. Yeah, just a couple of comments. Like I said in previous nights, I've withheld most of my questions to be submitted in writing, and I don't believe that every member needs to attend every committee hearing, even at the budget. So I'm happy to do that. There were a few things I did want to comment on, and I did. As far as the budget as a whole, you know, for years, what I can remember is that we had kept a tight budget, but it was at, we've been hovering at the 700-person employee mark for a long time. I believe that we're at 690 right now, and that this is the first year I can recall where we're hiring enough people that we would, you know, in 1 year, to creating new line items that would put us back above the 700 mark. Now, 6 of those are dispatchers who are being paid for by the new public safety tax, and I would even argue that some of the other 3 items in police are public safety tax related. So I'd say about, you know, let's say roughly half of the 14 or so new positions are like just, we're creating them out of whole cloth based on the fact that we have the money to do so. What I'm hearing from this presentation is that the tax dollars have gone up for us to consider hiring, creating new positions, and I'm pleased with that. And so I would respectfully disagree with my colleague, Councilmember Piedmont Smith, that I actually believe that the positions in the mayor's office are way overdue. That, you know, I think the mayor's office has operated on a relative shoestring for a long time, and that there's been some crucial coordinating services that can only be done in the mayor's office. The Director of Innovation, I can understand why people are skeptical about it, but I have faith in the position, and I think that Tom Miller is going to demonstrate his utility well. But I've been calling for the director of what is, I think, been called by the task force the Director for Community Engagement. We just long overdue. And I've already said in an earlier meeting that I think that the digital communications person should be moved from ITS to the mayor's office. I don't think we should be concerned particularly about the mayor's office expanding their domain. If anything, we expect the mayor's office to coordinate the rest of the city, to communicate not only internally, but externally as well. And that's what that new coordinator position would do. That's what the Director of Community Engagement needs to do. People don't know enough the things that the city does, just as a matter of course. We provide lots of services that we might as well be hiding under a bushel because people just don't know. They don't know that they can, for example, park by phone. They don't know, you know, that there's so many programs in the Urban Enterprise Association, or, you know, and it's not like current staff couldn't do those things, but they already have their hands full, and there's no one tasked with going out and doing nothing but engaging the public. Also, that position can function as an ombudsperson, and we could use that as well in the city to make sure that people feel like their concerns would be addressed immediately, directly. I know U-Report exists. I don't think it's enough. So I'm very pleased to see this position, more than anything else I've heard in the past couple of years, and I definitely support that position. Otherwise, I'm glad to see that the city's doing well enough that we can afford to hire to create a few new employee positions that weren't there before. You know, I'm a little cautious about it. I don't want us to go overboard, but you know, I think that in the same way that the 4th Street garage didn't get the maintenance love that it needed over time, so we've done for quite a few years without certain things, that certain positions or types of positions that would make the public feel strongly more connected to city government, that they feel that they're being served. So I wanted to make that particular point. I want to applaud the administration on a good budget, and I look forward to seeing the answers to all the unasked questions so far, and the ones that I'll be submitting by tomorrow. And I was just going to take this opportunity to ask Mr. Underwood if he has a final number. Okay.
The actual number was 13 and a quarter.
13 and a quarter.
Yeah, it was an increase in the Parks Department from quarter time to full time, so that was 0.75.
Mm-hmm.
One in the mayor's office, one in information technology, one in planning and transportation, one in the police department, which is the civilian position, and then the council's office half-time position. So 5 and a quarter civilian positions, 2 police officers, and 6 dispatchers, for a total of 13 and a quarter.
Wait, 5, and then how many in the, 8?
8.
Okay.
2 police officers and 6 dispatch.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Rallo.
Just to add, the term I was looking for is what Councilmember Volin just stated, Director of Community Engagement. This was a recommendation of the Innovation Task Force. I anticipated that this would be appearing. I think it's particularly helpful, I forgot to add, in meeting with constituents, oftentimes it's important, I think, to have someone from the administration there. I think this is an ideal person to have to engage the public when meeting with constituents, when meeting with neighborhood associations, rather than hearing the concerns, complaints, or compliments secondhand from a council member. I think it would be a good balance to have someone from the administration as well as the legislative body. So, and I also wanted to say that I appreciate the mayor administration increasing wages to $15 an hour for full and regular part-time employees of the city. I think that's an important step toward, I think, what we all wish in the future, which is a living wage for all city employees. So I think that that's the correct direction, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Sandberg.
Thank you. I will certainly be looking forward to the results of the salary study. I think that'll be helpful as we evaluate some things in the coming budgets. I do want to say that, this is the second year of a new mayor and his new and some old department heads, and I think we're all kind of getting in the rhythm of the new priorities and new processes, how things are done. I do appreciate the fact that Mayor Hamilton has appointed a number of task forces that he has selected from the community's experts to guide him in some of the innovations that he's bringing forward. I also respect the fact, though, that the executive branch, which is the mayor and his administration, and us as the legislative branch, we have constituents that we represent, that we also want to make sure the voices of the people who are communicating with us are also heard. And so again, that tempering of our suggestions and the things that we hear from the people that seek us out are also blended into the innovations that are coming forward. Just in general, it's striking that we are having some difficulty hiring certain people, bus drivers. I appreciated Chief Dekoff's very thorough explanation about how difficult it is to hire new police officers. I wholeheartedly believe, in spite of his being, I think, fairly modest about his needs, I do believe he needs more support, and that comes directly from us having conversations with some of the people who are on the front lines. So I will definitely be supporting that. And again, us having some oversight over the Housing Development Fund, I can go along with that again because I certainly am involved, as is Councilmember Sturbaum and all the other members of our Affordable Living Committee, that housing is huge, and I think we need to hear, our voices that are, representing the people that we talk to. I don't agree with some of the comments that have been made about, and I don't like to use this word lightly, micromanaging where certain budget lines go. For instance, I'm 100% committed to the Wage Task Force's recommendation for additional assistance for childcare, because that is economic development. That is where the rubber hits it for a lot of working families with children, and I think it's a wonderful thing to invest in. So when we start talking about, oh, let's only give them $50,000 to do what they want to do with so that we can add that to other things, I get a little uncomfortable with that, because I do want to trust that the department heads and the mayor, his administration, they have had meetings where they've determined best uses of their funds as they bring it forward. Not to say that we don't have the right to question, is this really the best use or not? But when we start nickeling and diming budgets as they put forward, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that. Again, I think $100,000 as an investment in a new program that's going to really add to working families' ability to afford quality childcare is a very good use of city dollars. And the dollars that we allocate in Jack Hopkins, that's for specific things having to do with Macomb and their new center downtown and New Hope. But that's not going to be a comprehensive assist to the entire deficit, which is a huge deficit in the community for parents to be able to afford childcare. So that's something that I certainly can approve and not want to try to shift funding that has already been thought through in a very procedural manner by department heads. So overall, I'm very pleased with the budget. I always wish we could do more, but we do the best we can with the resources we have, and very, very proud of all of our departments. It's always a pleasure during budget hearings. This is our one opportunity to really kind of interface all at the same time. And I always come away from these hearings with just the utmost respect for the solid work that the public sector does every day that oftentimes goes unnoticed and by the public, unless there are problems. And then we hear from the public more often than we offer thanks to the tremendous employees that we have here in the services. So overall, I'm pleased to support the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council comments? I'll just make a couple. One of the patterns I'm seeing is just responsible care of public infrastructure and equipment, and just like the way the 4th Street garage is getting taken care of, and the way the fire department is taking care of their equipment and buying the new equipment that's needed. It just seems like we've come through a belt-tightening era, and we're fixing the things that we had to scrimp and save on. So I see that as really responsible government. I do see that the pushback that the administration has heard about the use of that fund, the housing fund. I understand how it's more efficient and we should just let it go, but I think it's an expression that we want to be collaborative. We don't want to be reactive, and we don't want to be seen as other. We want to be part of this. And what I've learned on this council is we are smarter together. We're smarter as a group. We're smarter working together. And we know things just like the mayor knows things that we don't. We know things the mayor doesn't. And we want to be working together for the constituents that we all represent. So I think that I look forward to that kind of relationship in the years to come. And this budget is a very responsible budget, and I'm seeing good government here, but it's better government the more we communicate with one another as representatives of the city. So I think we're done commenting, right? Oh.
We have a vote on the final budget as a whole.
Daniel.
I just want to remind you of the next steps. So when you're ready to hear the
Point of order. Don't we vote on the budget as a whole? Or do we just do the departments now? We do vote on the budget as a whole?
We don't.
We do not vote on the budget as a whole tonight. So I did want to remind you that we'll be turning around questions that we think you've asked but have been unanswered tomorrow, and are requesting that you get all your questions to us by next Wednesday so that we can then turn them around to the administration by next Friday. And if you just look at the calendar, you'll see it's rather tight for you. It's also tight for them. Hope you can comply with that schedule. We'll have legislation coming forward to the council office mid-September. Then remember that on the last Wednesday of September, that's the 27th, you have a special session to introduce the budget legislation, and then a public hearing required by statute to discuss them. Then in 2 weeks later, on October 11th, that's a Wednesday, you're scheduled for what statute calls an adoption hearing. So that's what we're looking ahead to, and thank you for letting me share that with you.
Thank you, Council Attorney Sherman. Do we have any other business? I think we are adjourned.
Thank you all. Thank you all.